Andrew, I have a microphone here, a portable wireless, but don't turn it off or you'll get a lot of hissing. I don't know what's wrong. Thanks, John. We have two members who want to join by phone.
Trying to merge the calls, but we lost Dennis, so let me see if I can get him back. Just, okay, stay on the line. Hey. You can hear okay now? How about now? Okay. And for now, are you still there?
Good. Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for a moment of silence for our departed first responders and military. Thank you. Yeah, I'll come. We have two people participating by phone, Dennis Sarpin and Burnell Wilderson. I need a motion to allow them to participate by phone.
Make a motion to allow them to participate by phone for both of them.
No second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? My vote is aye. Okay. John Woods is not here. Jim? Jean? Your microphone is already turned on. I turned that on for you. Please use that.
I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Jean Holloway. I'm here as a representative and a board member from the Paul Smith Library. First of all, I want to thank the New Freedom Borough Council and all the citizens of New Freedom for their support through the years for library service in Southern York County. My with the library started in 1968 in New Freedom, when the New Freedom Women's Club, they chose for their project to start a library in town. And they did, as was obvious. We were here many, many years, and like everything else that's done in Southern York County, a lot of volunteer work and citizens going door to door to get things started and moving. And that's how it all developed. New Freedom Library opened, well, in 1968. And it grew and grew, and through the years, we had support from the borough, from many municipal organizations. We got to the point that we filled 3 rooms in Mr. Bugg's building on the front street, and we grew out of the space. We knew, New Freedom realized, that Shrewsbury was in a similar situation. They were in the old bank building on Main Street, beautiful building, but it was a bank and not really conducive to not expanding. So we got together with them, and that was in 1993. It took 10 years, a lot of work by a lot of people, and Jim can tell you how that happened. But anyhow, we did end up with the Paul Smith Library. It opened its doors in 2003, so we're now 21 years old. And we thank you for years of support from the community and especially from the borough. And that's how I got involved with it. It was something that we were told could never happen, that 2 municipalities could not work together and build a library. I personally, at one meeting, said, well, that's not the case in Southern York County. We do things together, we volunteer, and the communities have been known to work together, and we have. And I pointed out some of the things that had happened down here that we had proof that we could do. And I'm happy to say that that happened. I would like to tell you that we are the first building library in the state of Pennsylvania that was built by 2 municipalities getting together to do so. So we made some history. Another thing that was historical at the time, it's a green building, or leaves, I think is the proper term. So we're extremely proud. We were then, and we still are now. One of the things that I'm really here tonight is to thank you for your support, ask for your continued support, but we want to bring you up to date to what's happening with Paul Smith Library. We have been approached by the York County Library System under the direction of Mr. Robert Lambert that they would like to make our library a branch. Now, we are an independent library, and that's quite different from a branch. If it becomes a branch, they will take over our building. We will not have a librarian. They will be a branch manager. Now, this is my understanding, and I'm just telling you what we know because this has just recently happened. The programs will be directed by the library, York County Library System. The monies, we will also still be expected to come to the municipalities and ask for money, of course, but they will, I'm sad to say, we will lose the flavor of Southern York County. And that really breaks our heart because it's been very obvious that through the years with the board and the communities that we are meeting, and I think each of you received this packet, and I'm happy to see that the people here tonight have also seen the packet, which shows just how successful we've been. And this is only information regarding New Freedom. It's not all the communities that attend or utilize our library. but it was very important that we let you know what's happening. We don't know exactly when this is going to happen. We are in the process of trying to fight the situation. We would like to remain independent. That will be costly financially and a lot of work. We are still waiting to hear more of the details. We've submitted questions to Mr. Lambert, and we are waiting to have him answer our questions. Hopefully, we expect him to come to our library and talk to us. That's the time we're waiting for that to happen. But we want you to know just how vital this is to the community to know.
I'm offering support to Mrs. Holley here.
It hasn't been easy.
Get better.
This has been a traumatic experience for Jean. Just a couple more facts. The Hanover Library has made the decision to become a branch and let the county take over. The Hanover Library, just to give you the size we're talking about, I think you're all familiar with the size of the town of Hanover. They do about 16,000 items a month go in and out of their library system, their library. Paul Smith Library is around 13,000. And New Freedom and Shrewsbury together don't make Hanover. So the impact that this could have is on larger than Shrewsbury and New Freedom Borough, because it involves the township, and the township does contribute considerably to the Paul Smith Library. Jean and I have made contact with Julie Wheeler, the president of the Board of Commissioners for the county, and she has agreed to meet with us. She said it will be near the end of the month, but she has not gotten back to us yet with the time, because if the library, Paul Smith, is forced to become a branch, that eliminates the local control of the library. There will not be a local library board. It will be controlled by the York County Library Board, which is in York. They do not understand, and they don't have caring that your local library board does, because it's made up of representatives from Shrewsbury, New Freedom, boroughs, and the township. They're representatives. And in your booklet, it lists all the library board members. The other thing is, if the county assumes that they're going to be able to take over the building for the Paul Smith Library, and I would think that the borough would be a little concerned about that, because, for this reason, the people in southern York County and businesses, including Paul Smith, because he built a large percentage of the houses that are here in Shrewsbury and New Freedom. That's why it's named the Paul Smith Library. He contributed about 50% of the cost of that building. The county assumes we're going to give that building to them. And we do not feel that that is the best thing to happen. We own the building, the library owns the building. And if that's the case, we think that building should be used by somebody else in this area that benefits the people. Not that the library won't, but let me give you just one fact I am aware of. Barton Library in York, Pennsylvania, bigger than Hanover, is only open 31 hours a week. Paul Smith Library is open 51 hours a week. Why? Because they have activity all day, every day, but Sunday. There are over 10,000 members, card-carrying members of the Paul Smith Library, from New Freedom. Not the rural roots, New Freedom Borough. I don't know what the population of New Freedom is now, but that'll give you an idea how many people in town use it. And the other reason is Brad Hickey's father, Bob, and I raised the money. We didn't have to contact everybody that contributed considerably because they called us and said, we want to contribute to the library. That's why we feel if push comes to shove and the library is required to become a branch, the county should pay for that building. Think about that.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
Whose decision is it going to be ultimately whether you become a branch?
The library board.
The library board. So you have control over the situation at this point.
We hope we
No.
do. We're not really sure just how this is all going to work and how quickly it's going to work. The rumor is there's so much that we don't know because we haven't heard from Mr. Lambert yet. But we understand it is his wish that he would like this by 2025. Time is short.
And let me tell you something that has us upset. This was not made public and discussed with the member libraries. Individually, Mr. Lambert went out and talked to maybe small groups of 2 or 3 of the 13 libraries in the county. And at those meetings, they were told, do not tell the other libraries what you heard. We heard through the grapevine. Before the Paul Smith Library heard through the grapevine that this was starting to happen and that Glen Rock and village libraries were going to close or be closed. Well, Glen Rock's been closed for almost a year because of problems with asbestos and mold in the building. They just had to order to close it. But the way they went about this, instead of calling all the libraries together or all the librarians together and discuss this ultimate plan for York County to make the system better and more efficient and so on and so forth, it didn't happen that way. And that's what's so disconcerting about this. The other thing is, they say, I read an article in the paper that the old librarian gave us, in the York Daily Record, and in there this Mr. Lambert says, none of the libraries will be closed. But Jacobus Village Libraries already has been told when their lease is up, that library is closing unless they find another building in Jacobus to move the library to. You know, buildings don't crop up overnight. But the way this has been handled, the way it's been put out, and it hasn't really been put out to the public, but just to small groups at a time.
That's why we're here.
And that's why we're here.
I have a question. What's the reasoning or the rationale of, I mean, it sounds like hostile takeover almost.
It does.
You know, I just don't understand what benefit they get out of taking it over and reducing the hours.
We don't know specifically. That's part of the questions that have been submitted to Mr. Lambert, who now has had those questions for well over 2 or 3 weeks. We haven't heard an answer to one. But we did hear a rumor that the York County Library System is in debt of $500,000.
What does it take to keep control of Paul Smith?
You're either going to be a branch of the York County Library System or you're independent.
That's what I'm saying. What does it take to
So
stay
what does independent mean?
Okay.
The county can't get rid of the state funding that the library gets, which amounts to approximately this year $62,000 or $63,000, of which the library spends $13,000 on a mandatory audit.
Every year.
When you get over $50,000 from the state of Pennsylvania, you must have an audit done on your finances. And that audit this year cost $13,000.
That's a lot of our budget.
We don't know the status of what happens to the county funding, whether that would stop or they would continue to fund as they have in the past, a portion of the library system.
Big question.
That's what we're trying to find out with Julie.
If you get additional dates or meetings that are open to the public, could you forward them to the borough?
Yes,
We would be
we will
glad
be
to.
glad to,
That is our,
absolutely.
it is our intention, and we do anticipate a public meeting. And, you know, our library, I will tell you this, that recently, just last week, our library met, and many representatives from Mason-Dixon came, from Gillsburg came, somebody else, there were others.
Mason-Dixon.
Well, Mason-Dixon.
That's right.
Anyhow, we are working together to try to do what we can to save the library and to save other libraries, because we understand that there's more on the chopping block. Or if you don't become a brand, things will be made very difficult. And as Jim said, to become independent is really going to be a hard struggle for them. It will be devastating.
How many member independent libraries are there right now?
13.
Well, there's 13 libraries in the system, but many of them are branches.
Well,
Not including any branches, not that have converted or will convert, that you've heard of branches.
there are 13 libraries in the York County library system.
How many do not want to go to be a branch that you're aware of right now?
I am aware that Paul Smith, Dillsburg, Cartwright, which is Red Line, is still independent. There's only, I think, 4 of us that are out of the 13 that are independent,
Has,
and they want to remain.
has there been proactive discussion about forming together somehow to remain independent?
We're working on that now.
Mr. Lambert, how long has he been in charge of the overall library system?
It's been a number of years, and I can't tell you how many, really.
Like 5-ish?
I would say probably 10, I'm guessing.
In that time, how many times has he come to our Paul Smith Library?
Well, I remember twice. We haven't seen him in 4 years. So I remember when we first opened, we might have seen him in the early months of the library. But he may have been there more, but I do not remember ever seeing him.
You said you will not lose the state funding. If you lose the county funding, how much is that projected to be?
The county this year's contributions between $33,000 and $35,000.
What is your projected shortfall if you stay independent and you lose your county funding? Have you worked your numbers so that we're going into budgeting season, so that we have an idea between our municipalities, how much is your shortfall going to be?
Well, if they lose the county funding, that's, say, rounded up to $35,000.
But you don't know if you'll lose that or not.
We don't know if we'll lose it.
Independent.
That's correct.
There's so much that's unknown at this point.
What can we do for you short-term in the next weeks or months that?
Let me give you another story. One of the, I think it was the Gillsburg Library, one of their representatives went up to the library system in York and tried to get information through the right to know law. And they were told that the York County Library System is not a public entity. We are not required to give you any information. It's not considered public. So in order to get a lot of these answers, we need access to their financial information. For instance, Martin Library in New York City, they're not only a library, but they provide ping pong, foosball.
There's three things that we.
That's gotta be pickleball.
No, it's not big.
Inside.
It's inside.
Games.
Air hockey? It's another small one.
No, but it's indoors.
Pool.
Pool.
Pool. They serve lunch every day for those that can't afford lunch.
So it's almost like a community center.
Yes, it is. And that's one of our deep concerns, because our library really does things that you would consider a library to do. We have story times, we have programs, we have lots of books, we have movies available. We have all sorts of things available that, or CDs and whatever, that they can do. We come in, computers are there. And it's all been free to people. We also have a meeting room. Now, people do have to pay, if outside groups, if they want to come in and do certain things, they may have to pay a small price to use that community room. But it's open and available, and it is used.
It's in here.
So that information is in the packet. So,
You have someone to file right-to-know requests for your group? Like, for instance, the financials should all be public information.
Should be.
It's not, because it's a nonprofit corporation, not a public
Your county
municipal.
library system is?
Correct.
Oh, wow.
Correct.
Okay.
That's why they couldn't get it, they tried.
Okay.
We're in the
Have you-
process of looking into getting an attorney to help.
Yeah, that's what you should do, yes.
So if they're private, then it actually is, in the word hostile takeover, I mean, that's pretty appropriate.
What you can do is, once we get firmer information and pass it on to you, is put pressure on the county commissioners.
Have you reached out to,
I had a question about the county commissioners. Are they responsible for making the decision regarding the county's contribution to the library?
It's our understanding they are.
yes, the county, money goes to the, county library system, from the county. Commissioners send the money to them, and then that is distributed by
Mr. Lambert.
Mr. Lambert to the other, to all of the libraries.
have you reached out to other state representatives to help with some of this?
No.
Kate Klunk, Kristen Phillips Hill, they're both,
Well, it's a county library system. It's not, the only thing that the state does is contribute money.
True, but they might have some additional resources or ideas, or maybe they've dealt with it in another
And they may get-
county.
and they may get some of their funding from the state.
Well, they do.
So
All the libraries.
If they're getting it from the state, your state representatives, I would think, might be able to put a little pressure on them.
We
We'll
did-
we'll look into that.
But it doesn't sound like you have a lot of time if they're talking about doing this in
We don't.
2025.
And we were not aware of this either.
Or
We
call,
just found out about it about a
or
month
get
ago.
on the agenda for the York County Commissioners next time they meet.
Well, we have a committee that's working. Things are just really, because all of this is just coming out to us bit by bit. And as we told you, this is the truth. Libraries were not really told, and then you were not expected to talk. We're doing what we can to formulate and work, maybe as what you might call coalition, but we are working on that right now. And it is really in the infant stage, but we know the need for really getting rolling. And we really wanted you to know what's happening, because you're a large part of why the Paul Smith Library is where it is. And we thank you.
Appreciate you coming. Definitely keep us in the loop through the borough manager, Jim, you have my email, keep me in the loop and see what.
Jim, keep me in the loop too, because I know Julie, Scott, and Doug Oak very well. And if you don't get some feedback from them shortly, I can make a phone call. I have her personal cell phone.
We have our cell phone
Okay.
We thank you all
Thank you
so
all.
Thank
much.
you.
Appreciate
now.
it.
Yes, ma'am.
Having a cost analysis of what it costs to run your independent library would be beneficial to our borough, looking to go forward on how we can help. And I'm sure the boroughs around us would appreciate that too. Is that something that you could get to us? Like
Yes.
a anticipated, what your funding you think would be, this is what your expenses are, this is our red section.
We'll probably have that, those figures finished in maybe another 2 weeks.
That would be amazing, and I should have said at the beginning,
We hope.
thank you so
Thank you.
much for volunteering for the many years that
Thank
you
you.
have.
Thank you for all your nice
And we
work.
know right off the bat, you're gonna be short $35,000 from the county, so.
Yes.
Jim,
Yes, thank you again.
thank you. Devin Taylor?
Good evening. I think that it'd be best before we continue, since the mayor touched the camera mid proceeding, that it be verified that this camera is indeed working and operational at this time.
That's what I went over to double check.
Can we get a second opinion on that?
Second opinion. Would you like to continue, please?
Okay. In this folder, I have 14 copies of the document that I'm about to read for this council and the people of New Freedom. Good evening, my name is Devin Taylor and I am a New Freedom resident. I prepared a short essay to address a few elephants that are lingering in our borough's affairs. I politely request the following statement be made available to the public for disclosure, inspection, and questioning. I will also like to ask the council and public to hold all comment until my completion. I am aware that over these past few months there has been some disagreements and words said from both sides of the table. I hope to really clarify some of my issues as well as some of the issues of this council. You wanted me at this bench, you got me. The facilitator of these proceedings changes regularly. For the past few months, Andy Bobby has been put in positions while serving as the facilitator that expose his conflicts of interest and unethical behaviors to a greater extent than ever before. Immediately recognizing that Andy Bobby had been implicated in his character in question, he should have been removed as facilitators or his duties transferred. Andy Bobby cannot effectively facilitate a meeting while he's actively defending himself. I recently showed one of our most recent borough YouTube videos to a colleague, and his initial response was, and I quote, "Is this kangaroo court?" Erica said it last month, and I'm going to say it again. Andy, you should be embarrassed. You should be ashamed. Andy Bobby's actions have led to multiple people across our borough to resign from tenured positions from multiple different organizations. Council, the residents are all but up in arms because code enforcement moves like pond water and community concerns are less than heard. Andy Bobby is a desperate man clinging to the relationships and positions he has fostered and obtained. Andy Bobby was elected to represent the people, and I would be hard-pressed to say that the people are satisfied with his service. The only reason more people aren't here is because life is hard. You can't make it, the kids are sick, whatever it may be. We do have a wonderful YouTube series, and thankfully the video and audio failures of this council are limited. They do happen, which is unfortunate, and I hope the transparency and access to proceedings is given the attention it deserves. We the people try to be involved, we want to be involved, please help us do that. Council continues to ask for more access to ex parte, non-advertised conversations about public affairs, and you do everything in your power to not advertise these additional public meetings, all because it will cost the borough a little more money, and it isn't necessary to do so. I, as a resident of New Freedom, think that the advertising of these conversations and closed-door deliberations on public affairs is money well spent. Additionally, maybe we'll put pressure on your peers and fellow public servants to conduct business in a timely manner instead of these habitual and chronic reschedulings. The concerns and grievances of your constituents continue to fall upon deaf ears when they are aired here. It was made clear in July that most of this council likes to go against opposite or outside opinion. Half-time motions are whitewashed with votes almost unilaterally pushed through by people that have been implicated for conflicts of interest or unethical behaviors. And when roll call voting occurs because of mass council confusion, somehow votes change. Over the last couple of months, Andy Bobby and Dave Reisdorf have both voted or made motions in support or opposition of affairs regarding the VFW. While you may argue that the issue is largely because of additional implications, the The fact that the VFW is specifically highlighted, both should have recused, for all matters. For not recusing themselves, where there was conflict of interest during these most recent matters, I asked the council to redo all votes pertaining to all comments that mentioned the VFW where Dave Reisdorf or Andy Bobby voted, motioned, or seconded. In July, Erica called to question if it was appropriate for Andy Bobby to be voting on these letters or motions surrounding the VFW affairs and letters of resignation. Erica, I applaud you for recognizing the extreme probability and possibility of that conflict. I too see it, as well with Dave Reisdorf. The extreme emotional commitment Andy Bobby has surrounding his reputation at the VFW and the lengths at which he continues to argue with the public drag more New Freedom residents into his mess and delay public proceedings should speak loudly enough about this conflict. He so quickly strikes his gavel to silence those who implicate him or attempt to hold him accountable for the perceived unprofessional, disrespectful, dismissive, or unethical behaviors. Andy Bobby continues to grasp with people to defend his behaviors outside the public's eye. What's interesting to me is that conveniently the only people defending you, Mr. Bobby, have a fair bit to lose by not. We have heard statements about his behavior and decorum outside his room multiple times over the past few months. The issue is that he has selectively chosen allies to corroborate stories. Now I wonder what would happen when a member of the VFW validates the public's concerns, complaints, and grievances instead of rushing to his aid. The ongoing half-truths the world has heard and been led to believe about Andy Bobby, Dave Reisdorf, Joni Mason, and Ginny Neugebauer's involvement in VFW business stops today. These are not conversations that should be occurring at a Borough Council meeting, and because Andy Bobby and his associates cannot seem to keep their affairs separate, maybe it's time to choose one or the other. I have attempted to push Andy Bobby and Dave Reisdorf out of the ongoing VFW operations that they have so comfortably nestled themselves into unsuccessfully multiple times, and am now dealing with state-level VFW to address these concerns. I have been forced out of Post 7012 by current members of all levels because I started expressing similar opinions to those we have heard over the last few months. Andy Bobby and Dave Reisdorf's involvement in affairs outside of this room has again led to organizations in our borough crumbling to unethical and unprofessional behavior, forcing tenured pro-organization members to resign. Andy Bobby has overstepped his bounds as a Borough Council President on more than one occasion. He continues to foster and broker deals in relationships in bad faith, and for these and other alleged behaviors, I, Devin Taylor of New Freedom, ask for this council to seriously deliberate on if Andy Bobby is truly fit for continued service, and for you, Mr. Bobby, to tender your resignation. However, what I expect is another back and forth debate about how his actions and behavior are above board. It would behoove you all to review the Pennsylvania Public Official and Employees Ethics Act and see how he has flirted with possible violations for years. Andy Bobby has proven to the people of New Freedom time and time again that he does not have the ability to make the ethically or morally correct decision when no one is watching. Andy Bobby, it is time to excuse yourself from continued service. After these most recent months, it is clear to the public that you are no longer serving our best interest. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comment. Anyone else?
This is for disbursement to your fellow council.
I'm going to say something. I just want to say one thing. You've accused Dave Reisdorf. Dave has recused himself from every vote that has anything to do with the VFW.
I'm sorry, Ken, that's not accurate.
It isn't?
No, it's not. You did vote
When did I vote?
in the very beginning.
He wasn't employed then. He wasn't employed at the.
He wasn't employed.
Member of the VFW, nothing was there, so there has been votes on both sides. I'm not going either way. I'm just saying that there has been recusals and there has been voting going on. That's all I'm saying.
It's only
People can
unethical
go
if
back.
it has to do with anything financial.
People can
Dave
go
did
back and
not
look.
work then.
People can go back and look for themselves. That's all I'm saying.
We are discussing matters that are not on the agenda, and that would not be permitted at this time. You may add it as an agenda item at a future meeting if you choose to do so, but you can't discuss it now.
Any other public comment? Okay. Approval of minutes for the regular meeting held July 8th.
Make a motion that we approve the July 8th, 2024 council meeting minutes.
Can you
second.
add- Can you add, there's a couple of name changes in there?
I thought we were going to leave it.
We could.
One, absent Jason, I don't know why that's there because Dave was there, so it's either one or not, both should be here.
It's been listed like that in the past.
So can you change your motion just to include two minor changes?
What would the changes be?
Fix the spelling on Bobby on page 1 and page 2.
It says Booby. Bobby.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Oh, okay. Any other discussion? All in favor?
I'm
Aye.
sorry,
Aye.
Oh, sorry.
I hear everybody else really well, but Andy, I don't hear you. Is
Oh, I'm
your
sorry.
microphone not performing?
Is that better?
Yes.
I apologize. I'm sorry, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? My vote is aye. Approval of treasurer report pending audit for July.
Make a motion for approval of Treasurer's Report, July 2024.
Pending audit.
Pending audit, thank you.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? My vote is aye. Okay, unfinished business, stormwater channel on North Constitution Avenue. I understand we've received the permit from Army Corps of Engineers. And we actually have a opinion of probable construction costs from Aero Engineering in the amount of $18,697, which includes a 15% construction contingency.
Do we have that?
Yeah, he just
That's
passed
in the
it.
meeting.
Oh, okay. So
Go ahead.
basically with the construction estimate falling below the bid threshold, we would be able to go out and get 3 prices from contractors to complete the work, rather than having to go out for public bid.
Can we address the scope of work?
Sure. Did you
No.
do, oh, we
No,
can't?
the permit, the design improvements were completed, and the permit was issued by the Army Corps of Engineers and DEP. There cannot be any changes to scope.
You just wanted to know what it was though, right?
I think the ownership of the property has changed also, am I correct, Brad?
Yeah, is it all right to address you, and I'd rather do it from being seen, because somebody addressed you during last month's, and I thank you for videotaping it, that I was able to see what happened, so I'm happy for that. My name's Brad Hitty, I am a resident of New Freedom Borough, and I am representing the 2 affected property owners, Donna Russell and Samantha Hitty and Corey Miller. And they are present if there's any questions. If there's any questions about what is going on at the property, I would love to address that. The scope of work that you might not be able to address, but it is a concern that pipe, drainage pipe, that is now submerged. And I can tell you, in my lifetime, I lived at that property. I've been on that property every month of my life. That pipe was always above ground, and the pipe drained into the creek, and the creek drains down to the creek that runs alongside the railroad tracks. That is stormwater coming off of Constitution Avenue. There is some concern or question is that it's a spring-fed pipe. There is a storm drain in front of, I'll just refer to it as the Hitty property, and there's a storm drain in front of the Russell property that drains water from Constitution Avenue down to the creek. But again, that drain pipe is now totally submerged. And my concern is that the water that is standing in that pipe and has stood in that pipe for the past 2 or 3 years through winters could possibly have cracked that pipe or dislodged it from the next, there are 20-foot sections of pipe, and it could have floated the last section of pipe away from the other pipe. And it would not be a lot of work to expose that section of pipe while they're there working and verify that that pipe was not broken and or dislodged from the pipe above it. Because if we don't...
I think, Brad, what you're asking is, what are they going to do to fix it, basically? You want to know what the process is going to be.
Correct. But
Can we address that from what the permit said?
The project needs to be completed downstream before we can investigate anything additional upstream. Because as Mr. Hickey said, the pipe's underwater. We can't fully evaluate the condition of the pipe until we're actually able to drain that pipe out with positive flow downstream.
And as I understand it, right now, you can't pass a scope through the pipe. It's collapsed, or it's,
no, I don't think the pipe is collapsed.
Full of mud.
But it's...
well, full of mud. It's clogged.
Well, yeah, below the pipe is clogged with mud, and then below the pipe, it makes a left-hand turn, and then it makes another right-hand turn. And I didn't know whether they were looking at just opening the creek up, or if they would consider piping it that an additional, whatever it is, 30 or 40 feet, to get it to the other section of creek that has always flowed. So there's the creek that flows west, and it would go through the condominium project and flows down to the railroad tracks to connect into the main stream of water. That part has been flowing without any issues. It's just the connector stream has been the issue.
Okay.
We're thankful that Andy came out and looked at it 2 years ago, and really at that point, he said, yeah, this is a problem that needs to be taken care of.
I guess that's my question. If council approves this bid, or going out to get a bid for this scope of work, does this solve the problem?
It creates positive drainage
Yes.
away from the daylight of that pipe. There might be issues upstream that need to be addressed.
With the pipe itself?
Correct, and we would need to establish easements through there.
And just to make it clear, this would be dealing on the Haiti property. Samantha and Corey are the owners at this time. She's had a mortgage on it previous to this, and she has stated, and will state here to the public, that her property is open for them to do this work at any time. There's a fence there that could easily be disassembled, and all they'd be asking for is that when the project is completed, that whatever has gotten torn up is just put back the way it was. But they're happy to host any equipment that needs to go through there to get this accomplished.
Okay, well, it sounds to me like what they're going to do is open up the downstream side, and then you're right, there may be something that has to be done with the pipe itself to make sure that the flow is from the top of the property down to the daylight. So
And that last
think
section of
we're-
pipe was not affected negatively while it was submerged.
Right, obviously, yeah.
Yeah, so that's...
But that pipe is your pipe, that's, you own the pipe, correct?
Yes, that pipe was put in by my father, and if you want the background information, when he bought the property in 1954 from the Russell family, Ernest Russell, which would be 2 houses down, his one stipulation beyond paying for the property, he wanted that existing creek enclosed so that the properties were level. And this is back before you had building codes, before you had a DEP or anything else. And so there's many streams, little creeks that were covered over at different times via a pipe. And that's what was done at that time. I can also tell you that that the property was encompassed by two creeks. So over what I would call the vape shop, used to be Wall 6 Appliances. There is a creek that ran all the way from Constitution down below our property, and that was also open. And at the Constitution end, I can tell you it was 5 feet deep. Okay, I just know that. And then it got narrower or shallower as it went down through. That is also a piped thing now, and I don't know who piped that one, because I don't think that we did that one. But again, that was another existing stream that we played in as kids with my cousins and on down through. That is now piped down below to the bottom of our property, but then it opens up into a 2 or 3 foot deep trench that follows behind the warehouse building at the end of the property, the bottom of the property, and makes 2 turns, and then it continues on down to the River Track Creek.
What created this issue?
You really want to know? The
It's-
townhouses created this problem. I didn't want to go there.
Brad,
I'm almost sorry that you asked.
I don't think it did. The problem that we have is that the land development plan was, and the pipe that was put in, no one knew about your pipe. I mean, the borough really didn't know about it officially because it was never, and no permit was required. I mean,
Yeah.
back then, you actually did what you
Yeah.
needed to do and you moved on with
But they
your
need to-
life. But nowadays, everything is permitted.
I
But they need to
think it was
recognize-
smart Public Works, and I believe Public Works knew that pipe
Oh,
was
they
there.
probably did,
Yes,
but
I
I'm
don't think
just
that's an
telling you
accurate
that
statement.
your,
Nobody knew the pipe was there.
no, that's
Yeah.
not what I'm saying. I'm saying
Okay.
that York County Planning did not know that that pipe was there, and they didn't. And so a land development plan was created, and Burkentine followed the land development plan, and I don't think anyone did anything wrong. I don't think you did anything wrong, I don't think Burkentine did anything wrong, but I do think that if we implement this plan, this takes care of the downstream
Now,
and allows you to open up
Addressing the question-
address the
I
upstream.
don't know if anybody else here is aware that the property where the townhouses were built was a baseball field for decades. Often was called the Weyerhaeuser Field. Fast pitch softball was played there. The hardware store sponsored a team. There's many fast pitch teams, but there's also church leagues that played there. Little League played there. I played there as Little League. I also played Little League right here. So, but that field, right field, was always a swamp.
It was a wetland, yeah.
Okay, so you'll agree to that.
Oh, yeah,
Jim
absolutely.
Holly will agree to that, and Danny, you probably played there. Right field was a swamp. If there was a home run ball, went over the right field fence, whoever retrieved it came back with mud on their shoes. Okay, we cut through from our property down through there to go to the games, and we had laid a plank so that we could get across there without ended up full of mud. So we can designate that as a wetland. It was a wetland. That wetland disappeared or was pushed up onto the Haiti and Russell property, which is now a wetland. But when that berm was built, and also Donna's property had to have remediation done to it, I forget exactly what was done wrong there, that they moved soil around, but in the end, the pipe that always drained, and I can guarantee you, if this was going to go to court and I had to put my hand on the Bible, that this is a fact. That pipe was always exposed. Whatever it is, a 15 or 8, I think it's an 18-inch pipe. The bottom of the pipe was always exposed. The water came out and drained down. Now the entire pipe is covered, is submerged, because the little bit of creek area where that water has to flow through is now filled with soil. And this happened when the townhouses were built. They can't deny it. They don't want to admit it, but they can't deny it. And I will state it here as a fact. This was never a problem. We could mow our property. Now there's times when we can't mow down there on either side of the property, on the Russell property or the Hitty property. You can't mow the bottom 20 to 40 feet because it's submerged or so wet you couldn't even walk through it. This was never a problem before townhouses were built. So to the answer to the question, townhouses create the problem. They don't want to admit it. They don't want to step forth and say, you know, we made a mistake.
The only problem that I have, and it's not really a problem, and I think this is going to go a long way to fixing it, but they followed an approved land development plan.
That doesn't mean it wasn't right.
Oh, I agree with you 100%.
Somewhere,
But it was an approved land
Another thing
development.
I want to say about that pipe, as soon as Burkentine put that berm up there, and it was filled up and there was like a pond there, I called the borough office about 3 months after he put the berm up, because that was deep standing water. And I was getting mosquitoes up, you know, more than I was used to around my house. So I called the borough, and their answer to me, and this is a quote, "We can't do anything until the builder is finished. He will take care of it. If there's mosquitoes, we'll call the state and they'll bring in mosquito packs." Now, this was long before Sam and I came to the meeting when the water was filling up the bottom of our yard. The other thing I'd like to say, after listening to some of the minutes from your last meeting, I think some of the dialogue was very offensive. I was offended. The fact that, well, maybe we can just make this the property owner's problem. It's only spring water, and that's why the pipe was put in. Wrong. The water runs down under the road and down that pipe. There were other remarks made that I thought were very uncalled for. And I just think, you know, promises have been made that this would be taken care of, and I think we've been very patient. I know you had to wait for all the permits, but then last week it was, well, this is going to be too expensive for us to do. Not our fault. And the fact that you say Burkentine had no knowledge. Oh, yes, he did. The day Andy was there to look at it with Sam and I, one of the Burkentine men had a small digger, a small backhoe. He came up to see what we were doing. And we told him, and he said, "Let me go ask the boss, I can clean that out in an hour." Came back and said, "Sorry," the boss said no. The boss knew that pipe was being filled up, so all that's a lie. And I would swear to that on my Bible too.
I'm getting a little confused now. The pipe that you're talking about does not go all the way to the creek, correct?
No, it goes to where that berm is at the end of the properties.
it ends,
When I was there, it ended about halfway down the property, was
No.
all I saw.
oh, no,
And then the rest of it was just filled with water and mud.
the pipe goes down to the end of the Hitty Russell property. So below the pipe, it would be past their property. So that is why, you know, my father didn't pipe it any further, because it would have been off his property, and at that time on the Warehouser property that, you know, was not ours. But also, it always flowed. The water came out of the pipe, dropped off, flowed, and it makes a left-hand turn, goes for, I'm going to say, approximately 30 to 40 feet, and then it tees into a bigger trough that heads directly west down towards the railroad tracks to the main creek that runs through New Freedom. I don't know what the name of that creek is.
So Brad, can we go ahead and take action on this then? And I think that'll solve the daylight side of the pipe and allow you to solve the other end, or we can get an easement or whatever needs to be done at that point. Does that sound like
Yeah,
a good
that's,
plan?
we're just pleased that you're hopefully, you're going to move forward on this and give relief to the two property owners.
I need a motion and a vote, but yes.
Yeah. I think Jake had a question or response, or?
If Brad's gone, I'd like to come up. If he's done.
Sure.
I mean, I don't want to step on his toes. So, I'm Jake.
I'm Public Works Foreman for the borough. Brad, you know me. Met your daughter now. So the drawings here show that this is the Burkentine drawing. This black line is property line. Pipe extends past Burkentine's property line, past the Hitty and Russell property.
It's
Okay.
possible it extends a little bit.
And I get that, I've been out there.
Yeah.
Stakes are there, stakes are back here, and it does flow this way, like you said. Problem is, without maintaining a pipe like this, sedimentation comes down from the road and from whatever's coming down through and collects. So if it's not maintained over years, Donnie and I have pipes out there, retention ponds that need to be dredged. Same thing. This all stems from whatever comes up here and whatever might be down in here. I don't know if there's a spring. I was told that there was a spring that was piped in there. I can't get from point A to point B with our camera to do that because the pipe is completely collapsed from the bottom up. It looks like a V coming up through the bottom.
That wouldn't surprise me with it being submerged for the last possibly 3 years. It was never submerged before that.
I'm talking about at Constitution.
Oh, well, that's the state's problem then, right?
No, no. Borough stormwater, or stormwater in the borough, even if it comes off of the state road, is our issue. Problem they're being is, when you guys put the pipe in, you put it into a state pipe, which hence comes to cutting out 2 feet. That's what we were told by PennDOT. Cut out 2 feet, that all becomes yours. Ours stops at right-of-way line. You cannot connect to a state pipe or a borough pipe without an HOP permit.
You gonna put in a new pipe?
Nope,
Where's the water gonna
Where's the
go?
water gonna go?
that's not our problem. I have that in writing, and I have copies for the council
Okay.
as well.
So what he's proposing is to cut the pipe off.
I'm not saying that we're gonna cut the pipe off.
Okay, well, that's
But
what I'm hearing.
What I'm saying is right here, talks about common enemy doctrine, which derives from an old English common law from way back when, and it talks about stormwater. Stormwater is a common enemy. It goes to the guy downhill. You cannot pipe your water downhill and be malicious about it, or you cannot dam it up and be malicious about it. So,
Sounds like there's a dam below our property.
It sounds like
because
the
of
state
sedimentation
is,
that comes down from the pipe, it needed to be taken care of, okay? This all could have been remedied had the property owners gone to Burkentine and said, hey, we're having an issue, and the issue is, this needs to be dredged out. The borough.
But did they do that?
No, hold on. In 2022, Mrs. Russell and came to the meeting and asked for, whether they went to Burkentine or not, I'm not aware of that, I'm not sure. But when they came here, you all guys said, hey, we're gonna fix this problem. Never once did anybody ask any questions. Never once. I go to a lot of meetings, I go to a lot of classes, okay? There is no reason, we already spent $5,000, over $5,000 on the engineering costs for this problem. Why are we gonna put another $18,000 to $20,000 of the taxpayers' money into fixing a problem that a homeowner created?
Now, Jake, I'm sure I asked questions. Come on now. I'm sure I asked questions.
Nobody asked questions.
But-
Nobody sat there and said, Donnie, what do you think about this? Jake, what do you think about this? We're the guys that gotta do this.
Yes.
I am not, I think this is ridiculous that you're even thinking about spending taxpayers' money, especially you, because you sit there and you ask and you complain about all the wasteful spending that the taxpayers have had enough grief and all this and that. Which taxpayer out there are you gonna tell, hey, I can't do stormwater work now because I gotta take care of the homeowner's issue?
At the time that they
I'm
put this
taking
pipe-
really offense to him saying that this is a homeowner issue.
Well,
How is
you
it the
said
homeowner's
you put
issue
the
that
pipe
there's
in.
sediment?
You said you put the pipe in, right?
The
You
pipe is,
illegally connected to a PennDOT pipe.
That's my question right here.
That is an illegal connection.
At that time, you said there's some permit you have to get to do that?
An HOP permit.
okay,
At the
This is
time-
plastic pipe. It
but-
was not put in
but-
in 1954.
But at the time that they did this, was that something you had to do?
There's people you have to ask to do that.
Okay, who put the culvert box in front of 208 Constitution Avenue? Because we did not.
PennDOT did.
So who
Because
connected
that's-
the pipe?
Because that's a
did not.
PennDOT, because that's a PennDOT road. The
That-
state
that-
paid somebody.
That culvert was put in by Lindsay Amsbacher and Leonard Hendrick.
Okay, the borough put it in.
Yes.
The borough or PennDOT, whichever one, so it's the borough's issue. Phil, you deal with this all the time. I'm not trying to put you on the spot. But we
So
should
the
not be
state-
spending taxpayers' money on this problem.
But you're saying that we hooked up to the pipe.
Yes.
We did not hook your culvert box up to that pipe.
No, we didn't.
There is a pipe where the two come together. If I could get down there to look, I would, but I can't because of how it was put in. It is collapsed from the bottom up,
Okay.
meaning that it was not put in right from day one.
So your logical explanation is to cut the pipe off and let all the water run on top of
No, sir.
Constitution?
No, sir.
Where's the water gonna go?
I'm not saying that we have to do that. That's what PennDOT said we could do. I'm not proposing that we do that. But
Okay.
we should not be taking care of a homeowner's issue on private property.
It's
We
not
do
the
not
homeowner's
have any-
issue.
It is.
It's the state's water.
It doesn't matter. Common law, common enemy, right there. The state doesn't care.
So then we can
borough
fill the
doesn't
culvert
care.
box in with concrete?
No, you cannot do that.
Okay, so where's the water gonna go?
It's gonna go down that pipe, but you gotta pay you ultimately should have to pay to take care of the problem down there, not the taxpayers of New Freedom Borough.
We're not the one that filled it in.
We didn't fill it in.
When it was filled
It
in,
wasn't-
doesn't it make
it-
sense
it
that all
wasn't
that
filled in
sediment
by-
that has come from the road for the last 3 years, and that's
called
what's done
maintenance.
this to the pipe?
Maintenance.
But if they
Maintenance.
created it and they asked them with, I guess,
How can we
Andrew
We
there-
can't say that they created it, we're taking a big hypothetical if.
We can't maintain a
They
creek
lived
that's
it.
not on our
see-
property.
Did you see the guy push the dirt up? You visually saw it.
Did
You
you
saw
see
it with
him
your two eyes.
connect the pipe to the drain box?
He just told us in a public meeting on videotape that him and his father did
How
that.
do you have to see
And I'm not
somebody
dragging
put
your
the
dad through
germ
the
up
mud.
when it's
I would
there?
hope not.
No, sir,
Dad,
we're on public camera,
Yes.
Brad.
Yes.
Your
And do
dad-
you even
your-
know my father?
Yes, sir, I do.
Well, then don't drag his name in the mud.
I didn't.
I'm
I did.
bringing it back to order, okay?
yeah, thank you.
I'm just asking you guys, don't make a rash decision. We've been through this.
And I'm asking you to do the right thing. We pledged the allegiance to the flag, and the most important line is one nation under God. And the most important thing is to serve the Lord your God with all of your mind, all of your soul, and to love your neighbor as yourself. That means you treat your neighbor the way you would want to be treated. If this was happening on one of your properties, and I think you're all borough residents, I'm not positive of that, but I think you all are to serve on this council. If your property was having a problem like that, that was beyond anything that you could take care of, because it's behind your property, and it's pushing the stormwater up onto your property, what would you want to be taken care of? So, we need to do the right thing and solve the problem that is outside of the control of the two property owners that are having their property flooded. And we cannot go back there. If you're saying it's fine, then we go back there and dig out the creek that is not on our property.
Do it tonight. Do it tonight.
Are we allowed to do that?
No.
Okay, so then the problem is beyond our property. The water that has flowed for 60 years has stopped flowing, and it needs to flow to get the stormwater from Constitution back down to the creek where all the drain water goes.
Jake, what stopped the water from flowing? Collapse of the pipe?
Sedimentation. Non-maintenance. It happens on our pipes all the time. We have to go in and maintain them.
So 50 years, there was no maintenance and it flowed?
I can't tell you when it was last stretched out.
Was there maintenance on the
No.
pipe?
Never.
So for 50 years, no maintenance and it flowed. Construction happened at the back of their property and it stopped?
Cause and effect.
He's saying for 50 years it
I think
flowed.
Mr. King has a question.
I can say it flowed because I've been on that property every month of my life. That's a fact.
I'm sorry.
Mr. King?
Donnie, you said that, I'll call it culvert, was a class of pipe that wasn't done in 54?
Yeah, the plastic pipe.
So the borough added this onto the end of the
No.
Hiddy's pipe subsequent to when the Hiddy's built it.
No, the borough did not add any.
It was
plastic
added
pipe
by
there.
some municipal structure, because it is clearly newer
than Hitty's work. The common law that you cited says you can't impede both ways, up or down. The addition that came after the Hitty's pipe was built is then in violation, as the law he pointed out, and hence is the municipality's problem, because they built on the end of the Hitty's pipe.
Brad, when you guys put the pipe in, do you remember, did you take out old concrete pipe or old steel pipe and connect to the box at the road?
No.
Well, then how did plastic pipe get there? Because the
It was
borough
added
didn't have.
subsequently to your work. And to your point, was added by the
Because
municipality.
everything else was concrete down through there.
So the
But it
original,
was added subsequently, and the point was, the law that you cited is that you cannot impede the flow up or down by your work. And you basically just told us the municipality added to the end of the Hitty's pipe, therefore modifying the pipe, which puts you in violation of that law. It flows both ways.
We didn't do anything to that pipe.
The culvert was added
the
subsequently.
culvert box
to
at
the pipe.
Constitution Avenue was not put in by us. And there's a culvert box on both sides of the road, and there's also water flowing from, I believe, up on the hill, because there's 3 6-inch inlets going into the culvert box on the east side. So all of that drain water flows into that culvert box to the borough's.
But during a dry period, culverts coming across the road are dry.
So is my
The
lawn.
pipe going down at the bottom of the hill is full of water.
Because it can't drain at all,
It
ever.
can't go anywhere, it just sits there.
Yeah.
When it's not raining, my lawn is dry. When it rains, it floods.
All I'm saying is, I don't think we should spend borough taxpayers' money on something that's not in the road, not that it's on private property.
If it didn't go into my lawn, it would be on the road.
Well, and we're all taxpayers too.
I get that, but you don't take a lump sum and put it to one person.
Well, if
That's
you
not
all
how it
hadn't
works.
signed off on,
Is this his decision?
I'm gonna call this back to order, and I am going to tell you that we have a stormwater problem that is on your property. It's caused by a variety of reasons. I'm not sure that we're gonna be able to determine which. I mean, Brad has some opinions, Jake has some opinions. I am going to make a motion that we go out and get quotes, since it's under 25,000, we could go out and just request either, I think, phone quotes or written quotes to solve this problem downstream so that the pipe daylights.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
My vote is aye.
Thank you.
Welcome. Go ahead.
Not to prolong it even more, but with those 3 written quotes, if they're within reason of the opinion of probable cost, is the office permitted to select those to move forward? If not, because it's considered a wild trout stream.
what?
Yeah, I know, that amazed me too.
I'm reading off the
Yeah, and there
permit.
was a weed that was important too, I think.
No work shall be done in the stream channel between October 1st and December 31st. So we still have time because it's a rather quick turnaround of a project.
I make a motion that if it's within the, under the $25,000 limit for the bid, that the borough office is allowed to proceed with the work prior to October.
Second.
I'm sorry?
Brunel, hey, Brunel, can you mute then?
I have a motion and a second to proceed with the work. Is there any further discussion?
That was under the 25,000?
Under the 25.
All right.
Will the contractor that's selected be able to meet the schedule though before October 1st?
We will try to ensure that that is up front before
Okay.
they even write a proposal.
That'll be a stipulation in the bid, yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? My vote is aye. Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to beat a dead horse, but I'm just asking another question. Is this including easements, and will this be something that we have to continually maintain, or is this a one and done thing for us?
We are going to daylight the pipe.
So when this happens again,
I'm sorry?
so if this happens again,
I think that, hopefully I will have passed by then, and it won't be my problem.
Andy, I'm only 40.
I know.
And it wasn't
Um,
on for 50 years, so hopefully
Yeah.
it'll stay on forever.
At minimum, we'll have to get temporary construction easements, which we discussed before. And those construction easements will state exactly your concern. Whatever the property condition was before, will have to be after as well. So their rock construction entrance, anything they disturbed will have to be restored. Now that, depending on when all that finishes up, that might have to go into the spring for them to reestablish grass and everything, but we'll make sure.
That's understood.
Yeah.
You can't grow grass in cold weather.
Will that easement have to take place before this bid you go through? Because we wait,
We can run those
There-
parallel.
prices may change.
Well,
No, we'll run those parallel. I mean, we have contact information.
and the property owners aren't going to, they've already said they would cooperate, so I think
We
we're all.
regularly stated that the property is open anytime for construction equipment to go down through there.
Okay, thank you. Okay, anything else? Consider approval of an ordinance amending chapter 207, section 29. It's the parking permit which we had approved. This is just the paperwork to follow. I believe it's actually up, right? So,
So moved.
I have a motion, a second, all in favor?
Ordinance, is this an ordinance, has to be done by roll call?
Yeah, we've never done it. by roll
Only if
call.
it's called by a council member, if
Yeah.
by roll call.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we're okay. Well, it's not a resolution, it's an ordinance, no, but. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No?
My vote is aye.
Discussion?
Sign's already up. This was just the paperwork catching up with the sign. Did you want to talk about something?
Yeah, I want to talk about something.
Okay.
Ordinance just shall be effective in 5 calendar days. That needs to be changed to 10.
You should have brought that up before the ordinance.
No, okay, for future. That's why I said discussion. I wanted to change,
Yeah,
just wanted
but
to
again,
change it
this was
to 10.
approved by council last meeting.
Okay,
This is just the advert.
all right.
Okay, so be for future, I guess, 10. Consider approval of resolution authorizing road maintenance agreement with Shrewsbury Township. This was a corrected resolution. It's a resolution, New Freedom, authorizing the execution of an intergovernmental cooperation agreement with Shrewsbury Township, York County, Pennsylvania, for road maintenance of the proposed Concord Drive in the New Haven development, which is partially in the borough and partially in the township.
So moved.
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second. Is there a discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
My vote is aye. 2003 financial report, it's the certified public accountant's audit. Is there any discussion?
We need a motion for that?
No, it's
All right.
just been,
Want to make sure? I know it's a report, not.
anyone have any questions?
This is for what?
The audit report.
Audit. Yeah, I went through it, I read it. I'm not an accountant. I think that as a council that we need to have somebody that's knowledgeable sit down and go through this with us to be able to digest it properly.
Sometimes what happens is that the auditor can come in and present their audit to the council.
They did that last year, I believe, didn't they? What
Sort
any
of.
questions we had?
Sort sort of. Yeah,
That's the usual process.
going forward, I think that's something that we need, because
Well, let me ask this, I mean, I have no problem with having the auditor come in and present it, but there are no concerns, there are no difficulties found, there's no unrecorded misstatements, no disagreements during the course of the audit. Is there something in particular that you wanted clarification on, or?
as I'm saying, I don't know. I can't digest it enough to know that, hey, that, move forward with that thought.
You want to see if you can set something up with the auditor for the first budget meeting, and we can have 10-minute, 15-minute presentation, although I'm not sure what he would present if we don't have a specific question.
Maybe, there's, maybe next year, when this is presented to us, have the auditor here to present it to us, not just in our packet.
So the same auditor does the police, they come present it at the police board meeting?
No, they have talked about it, and so forth, but.
If the auditor comes to do that, he's gonna have to make a presentation in really layman's terms, because none of us, I don't think any of us are accountants. We're not gonna understand accounting terms, accounting principles, etc. So it's gonna have to be a really layman's explanation for that.
That's the whole purpose of it.
Yeah, that would be nice to help us understand.
I'm just saying, I've looked at it.
Well, I will ask counsel then. I will make a motion to have the auditor come and, what?
I'm neutral on it, I don't know.
I mean, there's,
Okay.
Okay.
I think the request was during the 2024 audit, supposedly,
Right.
that they come make a presentation. I mean, if you select their services again, that they come make the presentation at that time, which will be June, July timeframe next year.
oh, you're saying for next year? Oh, okay.
So I would not make a motion on that now because it's not on the agenda, but what I would do is when you.
It's okay. I mean,
Yeah.
she's not asking for this audit, she's
Right.
asking for next year's audit.
And so what I would say is that when, if there's a consensus or, if the council wants it, then make that part of the proposal when you send it to the auditor to get your pricing.
Right.
Say that it would include a presentation to the council with the results of the audit.
Yeah.
And then that way,
That's
it's
a good idea.
incorporated into the cost and you know what it will be, because there will be a cost for that.
Sure. Okay. So we're done with the financial. Tasteful occasions lease renewal.
Make a motion that we, are we ready?
Oh, sure, yeah, we're ready. Go
Okay,
ahead.
I'll make a motion that we approve the tasteful occasions lease renewal.
I think,
I
We have a committee report.
I think,
The committee.
yeah, I think we think we need to hear a report from the committee before we make the motion. But yeah, I'm sorry, you weren't wrong.
Yeah, we have committees at the end, so.
So you want to wait until then?
That's fine, we can push it down.
Yeah,
I'm more than
okay.
all right with that, I'd like to hear from the committee.
We can do a very committee report.
All right, we can wait for committee reports.
There's a committee.
Well, yeah, it's not actually on. Yeah, why don't we just do it now?
All right.
I thought because the committee was appointed for the subject, so I left it under unfinished business, that report would happen on.
Take one, pass them down. So the lease committee met several times over the last 5 weeks, and put a lot of work and thought into this. So I kind of made a paper, kind of broke it down, kind of kept it segregated as it was before. So last year, the base rent was being used at $8 a square foot. And we kept it at the $8 a square foot. And with their usage of the community center, including room 106, that was not on the previous lease, and the storage area was not figured in, because their rent was figured off of the 1,900 square feet. Their lease says $22.60, but after doing all the figures and putting in those two areas, it is $22.80. So just from $22.60 to $22.80, so the base rent, $15.20. For the gas, upstairs is electric, downstairs is gas. It is a commercial kitchen used for catering. So to be able to get accurate gas usage, what we decided to do was to take July, August, September, when we know that, you know, it's not being heated. They're not generally using the heat upstairs because that kitchen's electric. So when you take those 3 months of $580, divided that by 3, that comes out to the $193 monthly. Last lease, they were being charged $272 for the previous lease. Electric. So this is where we looked at freezers. They have 4 freezers. They have 1 half freezer. They have 3 refrigerators and 1 walk-in, approximately 11 by 8 refrigerator. Each of those, trying to figure out the electricity usage. So what we did was I went on Aventico, that's the brand name. I went on there, I printed out the exact refrigerator, exact freezer, went through, reviewed the amps, the wattage, so forth, based on the specs and the 7 cents an hour, kilowatt hour that we pay for. Each of the freezers are $44 a month each, because each of these appliances, it's approximately $1.47 a day. So when you put in the 4 freezers at $44 each, the half freezer is, of course, half of that, so it's $22. 3 refrigerators at $44 each, and then the walk-in refrigerator, the 11 by 8, which I have here also with its current amps, specs, everything figured out, is $132. In the previous lease, it was described as an estimate, kind of, you know, kind of pulling something out of the air. Best guesstimate, I think, was the reference. They were being charged, let me see here, they were being charged 20 per refrigerated freezer, which they only had 7 at that time. Now they have 8, and then including the 11 by 8. So it was $20 per freezer, refrigerator last time. The true cost, by using the hard numbers here, $44 a month. And then that walk-in, the 11 by 8, I want to say it was $119. Yes, $119 was the charge that they were guesstimated to be. So when you take this for the hard numbers of that, it's not far off, $132 a month. So when you get those 9 appliances together, the electric is $462, and that is just the basic electric for these, nothing added in. Of course, more electric is used, you know, the dishwasher, coffee pot, toaster, toaster oven, heat pump, lights, etc. You know, there's more electricity other than just the refrigerator, freezer. The committee talked about it. They thought a fair price for that, $75 monthly. There's no way to quantitatively kind of come to that, but if you look at the overall usage over the month, $75. I broke down there exactly the kilowatt hour, how I came to that. $219 was used in the previous lease for those 7 appliances, and again, it was only being charged $20, which is half of their actual usage. And this really goes in the favor of the leasee, because these here are the most up-to-date, energy efficient, so I'm sure what is being used there isn't as energy efficient as, you know, the brand new ones. You know, probably close, but at least very energy efficient. The water usage was $50 in the previous lease they were being charged. The committee decided that a fair price would be $100 monthly, being they are a commercial, for-profit business, kitchen, boiling, you know, things, water usage and so forth. Replacement of the commercial equipment was in the last lease. It was $94 monthly. We left that as it is, $94. Cleaning of the hood, grease, and trap is $750 a year. That was not in the last lease. They are the only users of that kitchen, so we thought it fair that they should pay for the hood and the grease trap cleaning, being they're the sole users of that kitchen. That's $62 monthly. They were not charged for trash in the previous lease, it is included in the overall cost of our trash contract, so that cost is spread out over the citizens. So we felt that $90 monthly, a home pays $30. You know, figuring we're putting, you know, maybe 6 to 9 bags of garbage in our toter, commercial kitchen, producing a lot more than that, so we came up with a fair amount at $90 monthly. When you add that all up, that is a total monthly lease of $2,596. The current lease is $1,900. It is 20. I'll have to find it. But so that is what the committee came up with, and they use a combined usage approximately. The main community center, they use about 21.45%, and the gym all-purpose area, they use about 350 square feet. So they use a combined approximate total usage of 24% of the community center. And I know that the last lease, when it was done, definitely it was the consensus of the council and council president that, you know, it's not where it should be, it's better, we're moving in the right direction. So the committee took time, looked over, came up with the hard numbers, and we feel that this is a very accurate representation of close or not to what is actually being used at the community center, so that the citizens are not subsidizing a for-profit business.
They use about, what, 12.2%, right? 2280, and the total square footage is 18,681.
After we went and measured the community center, all rooms, 2,280 square feet is what is being used,
Right.
and that would be the 1520 when you average it out over the year, using the same formulation that you used for the last lease.
What's the total water bill for the community center?
They're not charged water. They're not charged water, and
There's
so
no
that's,
meter.
that's why the
All right, so we're just picking a number.
council, well, we figured what it's at home usage,
Okay.
you know, what our average water bills are. And I would say for my family of 4, you know, 3 months, 300, I think ours was over 300, so I would think that a commercial, you know, business, restaurant is using more water than, you know.
They're not a restaurant.
Not a caterer, I'm sorry, caterer.
Yeah.
Um,
They're definitely cooking.
with their prep and cleaning and everything, so.
And trash, you referenced it to toters, but they have a dumpster up there.
They do, but they don't pay anything per se at the community center because it's lumped into our, what, $1 million contract. So that's a service that they get,
Okay.
which we're all in this room
Yeah.
paying for, so
Okay.
they should pay a portion of that.
Gotcha.
Absolutely. So, it's a,
What's the cost on the dumpster a month?
Hold on.
There's no cost, it just.
no, it's in our
Right, I
contract.
mean, whether Tasteful Occasions was there or not, we would still have the dumpster,
Yeah.
but The,
What would we have two? We have two dumpsters.
One's recycled, it's cardboard.
all of the borough facilities are rolled into the contract.
And something that, you know, we kind of talked about was, for the gas usage. We thought that was fair using July, August, and September because that is, almost everything would be them coming from that kitchen. It does cost money to heat that in the winter. We didn't add anything to that because whether they are there or they are not there, that community center will need to be heated because of, you know, pipes and whatever else. And we felt that the heat being generated from that kitchen, we're just gonna call it even, and, you know, so we didn't add anything extra to the gas usage, so their gas usage actually came down by almost $100. Any questions?
No, it looks pretty good.
We need a motion then to accept it for the lease.
Please.
I'll make that motion. $25.96 a month.
Well, you're making a motion to what?
That would be the monthly lease.
I'm sorry. Change the lease to
Change the lease to
$25.96.
$25.96.
Okay, well, last year, I'll make a comment. Last year, we increased by a big percentage. Just because we came up with this analysis doesn't mean we should put the whole thing in there. I think we need to get towards this number more and more. But I don't want to take a chance on losing the tenant, which is basically paying for all the utilities in the whole community center right now.
Okay, well, I just made a motion. Nobody seconded it anyway.
Oh, yeah, no, I was just talking.
Whatever you guys want to do.
I mean, normally leases go up by some percent. So I don't know. Go ahead.
We've got his,
He still has.
his motion on the table to update the, I'm assuming you're saying update the lease language to reflect a new amount based on the
$25.96, yeah.
committee's findings, and then.
I second
Okay.
that, and we can have a discussion. It's approximately a 34% increase, I believe.
36.6, 36.6, yeah.
So, and I have a fully equipped commercial kitchen in Media PA, $35 an hour. I have East Side Community Kitchen in Lancaster, that would be $160 a day on an 8-hour day, so that's $4,000 a month.
But those are rentals, spot rentals, they're not,
They are commercial kitchens that you can.
but they're not a
do-
long-term, everyday
do
rental.
For the
They're,
month. There's another daily. And even back in last year, so many papers here. You quoted, let's see. I will say that we didn't go up on the base rent. We went down on the gas. The appliances, I don't not know how you could argue that they're not being charged fairly for what they're using. Because took the specs that are here for those freezers and refrigerators, so there's no wiggle room there. If the dishwasher, coffee pot, toaster, oven, heat pump, lights, etc., $75, open to a recommendation there. But the freezers, refrigerators are what they are. Water usage, you know, being $50 a month, I don't think that is acceptable. Replacement of commercial equipment, that did not increase, that was kept the same. Hood and grease trap, $750 a year. Why should
Those are actuals, right?
Yes, that is, for last year, it was $750 for the year. Nobody else uses that kitchen. They should be responsible for that cost. And then the trash monthly, they were not charged before, you know, and people have said they do nice things for the community. Absolutely, that's great that they do nice things for the community. I'm glad that they do. I do nice things for my community too. Does that mean I shouldn't pay for my trash or my water? You know, and it's probably a business write-off for them as well. So these are, there could have been more things, you know, gone through on a cost analysis, but we felt, you know, you don't want to take, you know, generally a huge leap, but we're moving our way there, and the committee was comfortable. Would you like to say anything, Denny?
Yeah, we did a lot of research into it,
Very
and
much.
we tried to be fair on both sides, but, you know, there's, like Eric said, we pay our water bills, and I think they should too.
Give me 1 minute.
It was talked about $45 per hour to rent a kitchen when their lease was done last time. So everything, costs have went up for everybody, you know. A lot of our community is barely making it. A large percentage of the population is barely making it to paycheck, if not making it paycheck to paycheck. So this would be very close to what they're using there, so that they're not being subsidized for their for-profit business.
Question? So only gas used is in the kitchen? The senior center?
Electric upstairs.
Senior center is electric stove?
It is.
Everything's electric.
Okay.
So that's why the committee felt it fair to take those 3
That
months in the
quarter.
summer, you know, that not using the heat, not using other things. You know.
Question, question?
You said he puts the plate in half the hazard, that's on the public record also, so. That, I can take it,
You can apportion, solicitor, you can apportion water in a commercial space, right? You
How
just can't
often
do
does the
it.
public works speak on
Has to
this
be metered.
project or councils?
Right, well, you can meter it in a commercial space too, if you choose, I mean, you know.
Well, I know, but if you're not metering it, you can have a water charge.
Oh, well, it's whatever you agree to in your lease. Yeah,
Right,
so, I
okay.
mean, it's a contract, so you can contract
So-
for whatever it is,
Right.
you know.
I do not feel it is unreasonable for a caterer to be charged $100 a month when our residents are paying over that. And I don't know that I use more. My bill was, my land board was over 300. Yes, but they should pay for water and sewer too, it's going down their drains.
Yeah, I thought you were just,
Yeah, so I'm talking water and sewer, I'm sorry, I just said water and sewer. Their water and sewer bill should be comparable, if not more, you know, and then so yes, water and sewer, both, right there, 100 monthly. I'm sorry, I omitted the word sewer.
I would suggest,
We got a motion.
I know, we have a motion in a second, I'm suggesting well, actually, that's just the implementation. I think we should list in the lease what they're paying for rent and what they're paying for, you know, for instance, I would rather show them that they're paying $62 for a hood.
Oh, no, no. I asked for that the last lease to break everything out, and you said absolutely not because you do not want to tell the leasee how much everything costs for them to pick it apart. I wanted that last time, and you said no.
Well, I think you're gonna sell it a lot easier if you break this out. I'm just saying.
I'm not saying I necessarily don't agree with you, but you,
Yeah,
I
I
asked for
understand.
that last time.
Maybe what you do is you show the calculation so they're aware, but I'm not aware of any lease agreement that would break it out in that level of detail because it varies, you know, I mean, your electric can vary from month to month, your water can vary from month to
Oh, yeah,
month.
I'm not suggesting that we break out gas and electric, I'm suggesting that we break out the hood. The hood is a charge that only they're using. I just want to show that to them so that they know that that's their charge and no one else uses it.
I think the disclosure could be possible, yeah.
Yeah.
And another thing, our trash contract is going up by $5 or $10 a year. So when we charge them $90 for their 2-year lease, they're not even gonna assume that increase in the charge. Increase that we all are. You know, they'll be stuck there at 90. And that's another benefit to them. There's many benefits.
The only comment I would have on the calculation is that I think that, you know, your actual usage, like of the utilities and so forth, is, it's common in a triple net lease, that's what you would do. You would say that you would pay the lease amount, the $8 per square foot or whatever, plus, you know, your electric and so forth. Of course, you have to include it in your rent because it's not broken out.
The council
But
didn't.
the one thing that might be.
Well, it's not separately metered, that's
The
why.
council did not want a triple net. They did not want any of that. They wanted a straight lease.
Right, that's what I'm saying, but in a
Yes.
triple net, you would typically do that, so this is consistent with the way a triple net would be calculated by a tenant. You know, they would say, okay, what is my lease, and then what am I gonna have to pay on all these other charges? Because they would be responsible for that. What is not typical for that, the only thing that would not be typical would be the capitalization of the hood and grease, unless that's a cleaning charge as opposed to a, is that a,
Yes.
that's cleaning?
Yes.
Okay, then it would be included.
Yes.
Okay, never mind. That would.
Why not let them be responsible for cleaning the hood themselves? They're the only ones using it. Just take it out of the lease altogether and say, you clean it. Get somebody to clean it, whatever it costs you, it costs you.
Well, I
Because the
think
borough
we want
said-
control over that.
Yes.
We want to make sure if there's a fire, it's our
Right.
fault.
Yes. That's
That's
what
a
we
public
were
safety.
saying last
Yeah.
time.
So right
And
now,
it's- And if there's nothing being added to it, that's the flat fee of what it was. And that, again, that'll probably go up over the next year, but they're gonna be locked into this lower
2 years,
price, so.
all right, so right now, the motion on the table is that we update the lease with the total monthly lease of $25.96.
Yes.
Am I correct?
Yes.
Is there any other discussion? It's $25.96. It represents a 36%, 37% increase to the lease, and it covers portioned gas, electric, water, sewer, replacement cost, hood grease, the hood cleaning, and the trash removal. And you could argue a couple of nits, but basically that's it, $25.96.
This is fair.
I think it's fair.
Well, I don't know about all the increase in 1 year is fair, but I mean, maybe, you know.
Well, I agree with that. I mean, you know, normally when a landlord increases, even if there is a big increase in something, unless there's, normally you try to modulate it slightly.
Let me be clear, there is no room in here for us to be able to make a profit. There is no profit here. This is the bare bones of what is being used. That is it. These are charges that that community center is sustaining, that is coming out of the fund. It should be covered by the for-profit business that resides in that space, period. No fluff.
A lot of these charges stay even if the tenant goes away. You're gonna still have to heat it. Water sewer
We
isn't gonna
didn't
change.
charge them for heating it, that's not part of it. That heat is just for the bare bones of those 3 months in the summer that kitchen is being used, that is it. We're not accounting for the winter when it skyrockets, that's not part of this. I don't think you can argue that it's.
No, I'm not arguing.
Yeah, because the heat's not split out by, it's not zoned so that we can split it out that way.
I believe that's a whole nother conversation of the system that's in there that's wonky half the time.
Love that word.
And it's not the leasee's responsibility that it runs that way. That's something that this council needs to address.
Okay. Okay, the only other comment I have is that when we submit this, you're probably gonna get a negotiation back, and that's okay, because it's part of the process. Is there any other discussion?
My question is, you said we normally don't give them this total breakdown. So what, are we gonna give them base rent and then utilities?
No, all that I wanted
Well, we're
to do
gonna
is break
break
out
this down.
the charge for cleaning the hood, because that is separate and definite to them. None of this other stuff, I mean, you can mathematically, which is what we did the last time, show what it costs for gas and electric and water and sewer, but there is nothing metered.
That's what we did though, but
And you did.
if you use what the kilowatts, the amp, if you use.
No, you did great.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
not
right here.
disagreeing with what you're doing.
We're
I'm
not-
just
yes,
saying,
it-
I'm just saying that they can't walk out to a meter and say, I've used this much
Definitely.
gas. That's all I'm saying. So,
Okay.
what was your question?
Are we going to break it down exactly the way it is at the
No.
bottom of the sheet? Or are we
We're
gonna
gonna
say
replace the
your
number
base
where it
rent?
says,
Just re-
it says 1900, we're gonna
Well-
replace that with 22.8, or with 2596.
and
And
we're
we're
gonna
gonna change the
include,
square footage from 2260 to 2280.
and we're gonna include room 106 at 90 square feet. Because they've used room 106 for the past 2 years when this lease is up at zero charge.
Right.
And we're adding in
And
the
that's
storage.
2280, that's the total,
That's
2280.
So for the room 104, 105, 204, 205, storage area and auditorium, and room 106, the total square footage is 2280.
Okay. We also wanted to add in about the propane tank storage.
When we remeasured, and I wanted this remeasured before the last lease, and that didn't happen. When we remeasured, some of these rooms were off. Some of the rooms were off because they were being charged less than what they actually were, and then 2 of the rooms were not even on the lease. So that's when you kind of adjust those, add in the 2, that's why you're only off a little of this 2260.
It's only, off by 20 square feet, so total. Okay, if there's no further discussion, I would call for a vote to make those changes to the lease and send it to the tenant. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? My vote is aye. Thank you, very good.
That was a lot of work.
It was, we had about 5 times, 4 or 5 times. That's a lot.
Okay, agenda. Public comment policy.
Motion, you want to talk about it real quick first?
I'm sorry?
So do you want to talk about it real quick first, or do you want a motion?
Sure, go ahead, we can talk.
All right, I'd like to make a motion for the approval of the resolution adopting the policy to govern public comment at meetings of Borough Council in Freedom, with the one change of changing 3 minutes to 5 minutes. And that was, yeah.
This is not in our packet, correct?
It
This
was
is
there last
ours.
night. Yep.
I'll second it.
Okay. Discussion?
With my thought and methodology or rationale between for changing the 3 minutes to 5 minutes was looking at other municipalities, a couple other Pennsylvania websites. Some listed 2 minutes. Some listed 3 minutes, some listed 5 minutes, with the majority being 5. Our school board has a 5-minute policy. It seems like everybody can get their point across in that time frame.
I think 5 is fair.
I think, yeah, I think, you know, if you try to give them more time, they're just gonna try and fill it, and then you're gonna lose your message and what you're trying to say.
And I would also point out that if somebody comes and they want to make a presentation, for instance, the library
Yep, and
tonight,
that calls
you know,
for
they
that.
can certainly come and make a presentation, and then their time, it really isn't limited, because they've,
Well, it
has to be on the agenda.
It would be. It says presentations are limited to 10
Or
minutes.
10 minutes, yeah.
Unless otherwise authorized by Borough Council President. These limitations are intended to
Right.
ensure sufficient time and blah, blah, blah.
I'm just saying, it allows some flexibility.
Yep, yeah, so there's a provision. If somebody says, hey, I know I'm gonna be 15 minutes, I got a lot of stuff to talk about, that's permissible. You know, just like tonight with the library.
So this is not needed. This is not needed because we have Robert's rules that addresses the majority of this in place, and we have the Pennsylvania statute that also addresses decorum and so forth in a public meeting. I attend borough meetings around us. Stewartstown does not have a public comment policy. Shrewsbury Borough does not have a public comment policy. On their agendas, it says 5-minute per public comment with a person who is to speak for everybody if there's a group. So I see this as a way to gag our citizens. You talk in here about removal of a meeting, police department.
That's in the statute. And where do you see that?
It's on the last page. D, failure to adhere to these standards, you talk about removing them, jailing them, fining them, so it's already in the statute. Again, we don't need this. Boroughs around us don't have this. This is a way to silence and restrain free speech, and this is not needed. This is a overreach on the citizens when the majority of you up here ran on not limiting and gagging the citizens. So that is my view.
For what it's worth, I agree with Erica. I mean, we all ran, not all of us, but 5 of us. You know, I'll read it right here. We will work to repeal the rule which limits the citizens' free speech at borough council meetings. We will not follow the current policy of not responding to citizens. We will answer all questions when asked or take the time to find the answer to the questions. We will solicit and listen to public comment on important community issues. And I think she's right. I think that.
And you think limiting it to 5 minutes is going to, you know, that doesn't gag anybody.
Well, and it does say, or at the president's, you know, the president can extend it.
Personal attacks on council members, borough staff, constituents, other speakers, or members of the public will not be tolerated, you know, so you're going to gavel out Devin for speaking tonight because now you've signed this policy and you've deemed that that's a personal attack on your character. You know, it's free speech is free speech, and I've also read in the parliament here that a council should tread lightly on removing somebody and limiting the free speech of its citizens. The public, number First Amendment, 23, the public has the right to make personal, critical, or harsh remarks, including vulgarity or obscenity. The courts have found that members of local governments must follow the rules of decorum, but members of the public are not bound by them. This council is overreaching with this.
I'm sorry?
I think some of the members of the public, when they speak, I don't remember where they are.
I agree. But that's not our role here to silence the citizens because you do not like what they say. That is not for you to decide. This is a free America, and we have the right of free speech. This is taking that away.
You gonna make that same speech at the school board meeting? That's a serious question, I'm being serious.
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know why I would make that there. I don't speak at school board meetings.
But you attend them.
I attend them, yes. I attend all my borough meetings. I think it makes me a better council member to know what's going on within my area and the taxes that I pay to that school. Absolutely, I spend my time to do that. I don't know that I need to make that speech there.
You're done. I have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion?
Absolutely. Under First Amendment number 25, some bodies have rules like this. Any person making boisterous, impertinent, or slanderous remarks may be removed from the meeting. If you act on such a rule, you may subject your body to a First Amendment challenge in the courts. We recommend changing this language to ensure that it refers only to disruptive behavior that prevents the meeting from continuing, which you already have the Pennsylvania law that does that. We do not need this.
Tend to agree. I have a first and a second. Do you want to withdraw?
No.
Vote it down.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Wait a minute, you're voting to pass this? That was the motion, right?
That was the motion. I think I've heard 3 ayes
With the 5 minutes.
with the 5 minutes.
Change.
Okay,
All opposed?
I'm opposed to this.
Right, opposed.
My vote is no. What do we got?
You had 1 yes on the phone.
Burnell?
Why don't you, can we do a roll call or,
No, okay.
That seals it.
Vote what?
I said that sealed.
what were they? I didn't hear.
1 yes and 1 no.
So it passed?
No, it failed.
It failed, okay.
I voted no.
You voted no, okay. I couldn't hear.
We
Do you
all,
have it right, Andrew?
That's right. So I'll just get the names.
Do you want a roll call?
Just
no, we got it.
Erica, Dennis Cummings, Andy Bobby, Burnell Wilson voted nay. Just wanted to get it right.
I agree that we have the, we're probably not gonna, I mean, if I didn't stop what happened tonight, I probably never will stop anything. Okay. New business, consider authorizing advertisement of the Phase 1 aeration improvements in the wastewater treatment plant. It's an advertisement for bids.
We get
Yeah, we were just waiting to basically backdate everything. So this will run, I believe we're looking at a pre-bid meeting on September 4th. And looking at the 45 days that's required, advertisement will begin on the 23rd of August because we need 72 hours to get it to the paper. So,
August 23?
Mhm.
Okay.
yep.
I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Didn't we just do an aeration upgrade?
No, we've been talking about it.
We've been talking about it, okay.
This is actually, we've gotten to the point now where we could go out on bid.
Yeah, okay.
So this is a $3.8 million improvement. We're waiting on a $1,140,000 H2O grant.
No, we have the grant, but they don't fund it until you start spending.
But we know we're getting the full 1.1.
1.1.
We know that. So Shrewsbury's portion is 61, New Freedom is 35, and Railroad is 2%.
For capital
Correct.
improvements.
Proportionate share. So New Freedom is gonna be $945,630.
Based on that
Our
number.
proportionate share,
Based on the number that we know.
Shrewsbury, 1.6 million.
Yeah, I mean, we may have a bid that comes back that's way higher. We may have a bid that comes back that's lower, so.
We don't even know that it's 3.8 million.
Not yet, but we don't have to accept any of the bids. The bids will come back, and then we'll discuss it again in council to approve the bid. This is just asking people to bid it.
Okay, railroad's approximately 72,000, okay.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? My vote is aye.
Brunel,
Aye.
Aye for what?
To advertise.
It's-
Consider authorizing advertisement of the Orward Road Bee Tree Pump Station Stormwater Improvement Project.
So moved.
Second.
Yes, Danny, I believe.
Can you explain this to me a bit? There was a problem, they fixed it, and now it really needs to be fixed?
right, so I'd just like to thank Warehouse for providing this summary to council based on the improvements that we needed. So there was some sediment or some settling around the Bee Tree pump station, which required emergency excavation and repair back in March. And what was happening there is a lot of the stormwater that's coming down off of Orwig Road is basically making it to that pump station and ponding there.
This was so small, we're talking like right where Matthew's garage is, where
That's
it kind of
correct.
comes around.
Yep, yeah, basically
Okay, I
all the
was
water's coming
thinking
off the hill, it's coming
It's
off
like unreadable.
Matthew's garage,
Yeah.
and laying there, and that,
Okay.
over time, basically caused things to sink and settle. So the repair was done inside the pump station. This repair is to mitigate that stormwater coming down off of the hill into the retention basin that's already there. So just diverting flow away from the pump station so that this doesn't happen again.
That was my question, so this alleviates that.
Yeah, and I understand what you're saying, but about the smaller print, but if you look, if you're looking at, and north is up on the diagram here, there's a rock stone trench right that's kind of armoring the pump station. Sorry, right here. So before the water would come down and lay here, this stone trench is going to catch that water and get it over here into the retention basin. Along with that, we've got some settling of concrete in the area. That's going to be repaired in the sidewalk and new tie-ins to the catch basins there as well. And as mentioned in the notes, we currently have enough leftover ARPA money, which is to go into infrastructure improvements to satisfy what the engineer's estimate of construction is.
What is the estimate?
The estimate with contingency is $92,799.63.
5% contingency.
Got a question about the contingency. This only calls out 5%, but the other paper we had earlier was like 15? Is that just what the different companies like to use?
Usually when you get a project that's really ready for bid and you've kind of went through the process, they'll drop that down at 5%. The reason
because
Arrow
things are
left
gonna change?
15% is just because they're putting those rough numbers in based on what's going to happen on site there.
Okay.
Obviously, the engineer never wants to be the low bidder either.
Any other discussion?
There's actually ARPA funds, there's $98,353 left. And that money needs to be allocated by the end of 26.
And if this doesn't get fixed, it's not gonna get better by itself.
No, no. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? My vote is aye.
You probably didn't hear me, I said aye too.
Okay.
Burnell.
Okay, road closures for New Freedom Fest. I don't think this is anything different than we've had in years past.
Make a motion to approve the road closures as listed.
Second.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
My vote is aye. It's like a delay. Okay, consider approval of the 2025 minimum municipal obligation to non-uniform pension plan in the amount of $87,539. This is pretty close to what it was last year, right?
How come we have this deficit of having to pay, or how does that happen, or?
We don't have those.
Or,
This is
I
our
know that-
minimum obligation.
I know that funds come for a certain amount of
State aid?
state aid.
Correct, yeah. We receive an allocation from the state based on their per unit being per employee that's currently actively enrolled in the pension plan. So that allocation and funding formula changes annually. But basically, through the actuarial studies, this is the amount that's required to fund the pension plan moving forward, and that amount fluctuates every year based on your annual payroll and the number of employees that are employed at the time. So, I gave council the example, in 2023, the borough's minimum municipal obligation to the pension plan was $57,000. We received $73,000 in state aid, which means that additional $25,000 went into the pension plan and helped reduce future obligations.
The rec director is not part of this annual payroll because this is for 23? Was it for 23?
This is 24.
This is for 24,
Yeah.
so this includes the rec director in here?
In order to be considered active for this calculation, an employee needs to have 6 months of employment in 2024, and they would, the rec director would, for 24.
It's 1.148 million for total annual payroll for New Freedom. Is this 1.148 part of her salary right here or not?
Her salary is calculated.
Is in there.
That's correct.
What portion, because she's an employee of New Freedom Borough and the Shrewsbury Township gives us their $3.53.05 their tax for their citizens for that. How much of this MMO, minimum municipal obligation of $87,539, how much of that is the township covering?
So, two things here. First, that minimum municipal obligation that will be made to the pension plan in 2025 will be whatever the state allocation does not meet. Should the state allocation meet that MMO, which historically it has, there would be no charge to the water department, the sewer department, general fund, the rec fund. If we'll use numbers and say that it comes up $10,000 short, and we currently have 10 employees that are enrolled in the pension plan that are active, we would take $1,000 and we would allocate it to the water fund based on how many employees are in the water department, the sewer fund, general, and rec. So just say that would be one, then it would be $1,000 that would go into the budget for the rec director separately. So the only real way to get those numbers is every year to calculate that number based on the allocation from the state. And then
Looking back, you have to look back.
You do have to look back, and then divide that out and allocate it proportionately to those departments or to those employees.
So New Freedom Borough has to pay a minimum municipal obligation of $87,539, But you're saying the state aid that we're anticipating could come in, could be over the $87,000.
Historically, it has been sufficient, or there's been very small amounts that have been needed to meet that MMO.
So even though we've got to have this go out, it's coming back to us in state aid. We're having it reimbursed to us in a way?
Yeah, it's basically through the Commonwealth's pension system that they calculate that per unit that goes out to municipalities that have a non-uniform pension. And the police department gets an allocation as well.
Is this PMRS?
No, this is through principal.
Principal, okay.
Yeah. There's a couple, principal does it, PMRS, PSAB. Those are the three major ones throughout.
The police just changed to Engelbert. Is this something Engelbert would do?
Engelbert might
Financial?
be the actuarial that they're using.
They use an actuarial,
Yeah,
but
it's not. an
they run the
Engelbert
pension
function.
fund.
This is Engelbert is probably your auditor function, or your actuary function, right?
Actuarial,
Yeah.
they run the pension, they
Okay.
They
the
determine.
They administer.
administer. Is that
Ours is done by principal.
principal? So
Yes.
they're doing the same thing.
And
Yep.
and there's no employee input to the pension fund as far as they can determine, like in the police pension, there's a employee input where they can select different funding methods for the pension, but there is none in this pension, correct?
Well, the only difference there is when an employee retires, they can choose, we'll call it A through J, options of how they want those disbursements. Whether
Right.
it's 50% survivor, 100% survivor.
I just
People
meant
do
in
this-
selecting like mutual funds. I mean, they
No.
don't do that. This is just a flat, this is what you get.
Like the,
It's a defined benefit.
Right.
like the police department, that's turned over into an amortized fund, what do you call it? An annuity.
Yeah.
Is that the same way here? The police department,
You have
when
the
you
option
retire,
to
you
do
have
that.
an
You have the
annuity.
option to do that at retirement, but that's.
I don't think they have an option. I think that's the way they get it out of the system, by putting that money into an annuity. But my main question here was, what did we account for last year when we did the budget? Did we account for this $87,000? Did we account for a guesstimate of the state pension plan?
Why would we put $87,000 in the budget for '24 when this is '25?
But the answer to your question, Mayor, I think is this. I don't know what your budget looks like. but
Yeah, do we
typically-
account for it?
Absolutely.
But typically what
Okay,
happens
yes.
is that the MMO is calculated and then the government payment is calculated.
Yeah,
And
so this
you
isn't a
would- you
big
would do
surprise.
You would do a net in your
Right.
budget. You wouldn't do the actual. So at this stage, in every municipality and in every regional police department that I've represented, this has been a perfunctory approval because you can't control it.
Gotcha.
There's nothing you can do about it. And then what you do is you wait for your state aid to come back. And then you can make, at that point, that's when you have these types of discussions, if you have to make a payment. And I would say that in my 40 years of representing municipalities, they've made a payment twice. You know, I mean, have you made a payment yet when you've been, of any
Yeah,
amount?
I
Like,
mean, previously a couple times, but normally, and like I said, historically, the state aid is sufficient.
Yeah.
But when we look at our budget, we always factor in, there might be an expense in there so that we cover that.
Yeah,
And
I think there've only been 2 times in my experience. I mean, sometimes it's $1,000 or
Right.
something, you know, you get a minimal expense to make the adjustment. But beyond an adjusting figure, I think I've only seen it happen twice, where it was an actual, something that you would spend time on.
So I'll call for a perfunctory approval.
I don't,
We don't need to approve it?
no, we didn't get a motion.
I thought we
Unless I
had a
missed it.
motion and a second.
I thought I made a motion.
Yeah.
Well, then I missed it. My
Yeah,
fault.
I think I made a motion and somebody on the phone.
Yeah,
made a
I think
second.
Burnell, I think it was
Burnell.
actually Burnell. Could have been Dick, but it could have been Dick. Anyway, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? My vote is aye. Okay, consider approval of the Southern York County Regional Recreation Commission bylaws. These came to us from the Rec Commission, and they reviewed them. I think they started out with a draft. Anyone have any questions, or would anyone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion for approval of the bylaws for Southern York County Regional Recreation Commission.
Second.
Are there any discussions?
Under employment, section 5.1, says authorization to hire employees. The Board of Commissions may employ, have as independent contractors or contract for individuals, management. So this commission can hire people, and now we've got to cover those?
No, they're not, this is not a, it says employ, have as independent contractors. This is to be covered out of program funds.
And if you don't have the program funds, how's it covered?
Well, but I'm assuming that the rec commission would not hire somebody if you didn't have a program that, you know, this would be like if I'm having a day camp or a mommy and me or something like that, and Gina's not
Would
going
this
to.
be tennis?
Or tennis. Tennis is a good example,
Yeah,
and, you know, and then, you know, Mary Ann hired people to come in and help teach tennis, and they were paid for out of the tennis program. Or if it's a mommy and me, it would be paid for out of the day camp.
So you're not talking somebody that's got a $60,000, $80,000, $100,000?
No, this
That's
is,
what I took that.
no, this is,
No.
Because when you come down to 5.3, it talks about an administrative assistant for the director. You know, I thought a director was sufficient, but now I see you can hire the director, which you've done with a whole compensation package of over $100,000 for everything. But then it has an administrative assistant. New Freedom's 2 square miles. I don't know, I don't see why the director would need an administrative assistant.
well, this isn't something that would happen until and unless it's grown to the point where one's required. This is going to be, it gives the authority, but
But it doesn't say that. I mean, it doesn't say
Well,
that
this is
until
the-
it grows.
well, if you don't have the money, you're not gonna hire somebody.
Well, you could raise taxes again.
For a vote of council, but.
Say again.
Yeah, but I mean, it could bring it to the council to raise taxes again. I mean, it's pretty concerning. You know, we already saw our payroll over 1.1 million, and then now an administrative assistant for the rec director.
And the board does not require authorization by either the council or the superintendent? Is that what I'm seeing? They can just arbitrarily hire somebody without our, okay?
They're supposed to be hired, like they've already hired for pickleball clinics.
That's true.
But an administrative assistant, is what we're talking about. They can hire an administrative assistant without coming to council. It gives them that right in section 5.1.
I'm not sure what words you want to surround it with, but this is for, I mean, I would imagine that at some point, like you might use Victoria to pay bills. I mean, you know, but it does in fact say that. I just can't imagine that it would happen without going through a process.
Ground's been laid here for it to happen.
Why put it in now if it's not needed? Why'd you add it later?
I don't think this is hiring.
It under employment.
Yeah, the position of administrative assistant.
It's a position.
Well, that person would be paid.
Authorization to hire employees, section 1.5, that is the heading name.
Of general contractors, it says underneath.
Yeah,
it.
that's not,
Those are two separate items.
Then you're talking about apples and oranges and putting it under the same thing if you're trying to split it that way, because it says authorization to hire employees.
no, 5.3 is is the
5.1.
same.
5.1.
I know, 5.1, 5.2, 5.3 are all at the same level in the bylaws. 5.1 does not refer to 5.3.
But the Board of Commissions has the authority and authorization to hire employees.
The commission, not the rec director.
I know, the commission, so you can go and you can hire an administrative assistant if you wanted to.
But to do what? There's not gonna be enough work for that individual.
You know, I don't know what you might decide to do, I don't know, I'm just saying it can be done. I'm not saying it's
The
going to be
possibility
done.
is there.
But if the barn door is open, the horse is left, it can be done.
You want to weigh in on that? Well, I don't know what the intent was. I think the intent was to leave it open so that someday, if it was needed, it could be done.
You're on the board, what is the intent?
Where the bylaws were, this is how it's been presented before. I don't
Before what?
I don't have a problem with looking towards the future, because if you do that, then do you have to look at redoing the bylaws?
Well, the way that
Or-
I've,
At the end,
the way that I've seen this,
amendments.
the way that I've seen this controlled in typical intergovernmental cooperation agreements is through section 6.2. Because anytime, before there can be a hire, you have to have a budget
Now,
for that employee.
Thank you.
And so therefore, and you have to approve the budget. And so therefore, it's handled through the budgeting process so that the commission has the authority to do hiring, firing, that type of thing, and it's kind of standard. And then who they hire and what they hire and the amount that they pay and all that type of thing is controlled through 6.2. That's usually how I've seen it done.
yeah, well, that actually makes sense.
So
you're not-
because there'd have to be a separate line item for that particular
Right.
position.
And you're not gonna hire somebody if you don't need them.
Well,
That's-
maybe,
So-
but regardless, it would have to be budgeted and you would have to
Right.
agree to pay that amount of money for that person.
Yes.
There were council members that felt director wasn't needed, but it still happened,
So,
you know?
that was
so-
only certain individuals, that was not council as a whole's decision.
I said there were council members. I
But-
didn't say the council said. There were council members that believed their rec director was not needed, but it still happened.
Okay.
There's administrative assistant right here, and you just said that it won't happen, but it can happen if council members believe that it should be.
Well, if council funds it, yeah, it could happen. But it would have to be a majority of council.
It doesn't say anything here that they have to come to council to get a prior authorization to hire anybody.
No, but it has to be in the budget.
That's-
You have to pay them.
They get paid for it.
You have to pay them. So that's how 6.2 works. And that's how
8.4?
all of these things
It
work.
only goes to 8.2.
No, it has to be paid for, I think, that's what he said. Okay, all right, so what I'm understanding is the solicitor said that it's not gonna happen unless it gets funded, so that's, it does leave the option in there to hire an administrative assistant, so you don't have to go back and change the bylaws, but an administrative assistant is not gonna be hired unless it's approved in the annual budget by the participants, which are council and the supervisors. So that's the answer to the question.
Is it not both municipalities as well?
Yes.
Let's do that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What happens if one municipality says, yes, I want it in the budget, and the other one says, no?
The IGA has stipulations.
What's the stipulation if that were to happen?
I think it defaults to the previous year's budget until it's resolved.
Kind of like the police department.
The whole police does that too.
I think that's what it said.
That's what it says in the last sentence of section 6.2.
contract to essentially not.
This is
having-
all kind of standard stuff.
Yeah,
for these types of agreements.
previous.
So, is there any other questions about that one? Any question about something else if we were done?
So they are a completely independent entity from
They run as
Borough
an independent
and,
entity, but they're funded by the
all we do is
participants.
give them money and they run with it.
Well, we can give input on what we'd like to see.
But yes,
But yes, you're right.
Yeah, because they're a board.
yes, you're correct. There would be a separate entity, run by controlled by a separate governing body. And you control the purse strings. That's right. That's exactly
What
right.
was your question, Ryan?
There's gonna be about under 2.3, numbers 2 and 3, both say 2026. I believe that's how it was before. Should one be 26 and then number 4 be 27 to keep them?
No, because it's 3-year terms.
3 years. That's right. All right, thank you.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No?
No,
My vote is aye. Motion carried.
Is this a resolution or is it, what is it?
This, what you just passed is called an intermunicipal agreement.
Okay.
And so that's passed by an ordinance. That's how it's done.
Yes, where does it say it's more?
Well, it was, yeah.
It
this
was,
is
this is a
supplemental bylaws.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Solicitors report.
Dave Jones told me that you folks are very interested in making sure that you comply in all respects with appropriate state laws, and which is, of course, the reason that I'm here. And so he asked me to read Beisel's Pennsylvania Municipal Law Source, which is only about 1,327 pages, starting with the open records law and ending with residency during military service. So before I begin reading
I'm going
this
to call for a
tonight,
recess so we can all go to the bathroom before you start.
I just wanted to
I'll
verify if you
second
really
that.
wanted that. I'm sensing that maybe you don't. And if you don't, then I don't have any other report tonight.
Thank you, sir. Managers report.
Everybody has a copy of the July 2024 Managers Report in the packet. You can read that at your leisure, as well as the grant update. There were no updates for the month of July to the grant report. I did reach out concerning the recycling program. Usually that money is funded in July or August of every year. DEP is reporting back that that's probably going to be late fall. So unfortunately that pushed out that the results of those awards until later this year.
We had a lot of positive feedback about Smoke on the Rails. And I just started reading the newsletter. The newsletter looks great too.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out in that newsletter, as I mentioned in the report, Gina has a lot of great program opportunities already set up. So I think there are 4 pages dedicated to regional recreation in that newsletter, which is it was the goal of the program.
Is Shrewsbury, when they put out their, I imagine they'll have the same program.
That's correct.
So,
I have a question about your report. York County turns 275. Is there a reason that we did not do a resolution?
We did. We did.
We did the-
Over a year ago, if not more, we recognized.
You just got an email last month to recognize, it had a copy of a resolution that they were asking all municipalities to pass. I know Shrewsbury passed it last month.
Again, we did that, if not a year or more ago. We recognized the 250th anniversary of the United United States and the 275th anniversary of York County.
Did you want us to do something
And
further?
I sent that to Commissioner Wheeler and Brian Tate, and they both thanked me for supporting the cause.
You did, but we did do a resolution for that, like they asked. But we did it a year ago.
At least.
I was gonna bring it up also, there was an invitation that went out to participate in their 275th celebration. That was this past Saturday, but as a council member, I didn't get that information so that I could make the decision to go participate or not.
And as a mayor, I didn't, I just happened to be there.
I heard about it at the other two boroughs.
I had a call late last week asking if we were going to participate, but that was Thursday. And I didn't receive any other information about that, so I was a little confused on where that information went.
Well, Stewartstown meeting is the first of the month, so if they had it and Shrewsbury had it, I think you would have had it at the beginning of the prior month.
I agree.
That, and also for Smoke on the Rails, I had asked for it last year and received it, thank you, this year. I'd like a full accounting of the income and the expenses.
Yep.
Down to people's time and so forth, how they were compensated.
Yeah, we're still working and
Yeah.
we're still waiting on some invoices, one from
Definitely.
Cleveland Brothers for a generator. But
Yeah,
yeah, we'll put that together
when
again.
you-
It's already 50% complete.
Gotcha, yeah, whenever it's ready. And the only other thing with that, I came down to the borough office to make a payment, and there was a sign on the door that the office had closed the day before, so the office was closed half of Thursday, all of Friday, for people in the office to go help out and volunteer with that Smoke on the Rails. And I had citizen, text me, why is it, what's going on with the office being closed? That should have been something, I feel, that should have been spoken about in the last council meeting, that come to the council and say, I'd like to have all hands out there, I'm gonna have to close the office for a day and a half, because how many people came here and did not get to, conduct business how they thought, because they had cash or whatever reason, and had to turn around and come back another time. I do not see a reason why one employee of that office couldn't be there, even if everybody wanted to help out, fine, rotate them out, half a day or whatever, but I'm strongly opposed to the borough office being closed for Smoke on the Rail.
I mean, we approved as a council running a Trail Town community event, and we voted to do it. We voted to allow Andrew to take action to implement it. So I think that falls under his prerogative to decide what has to happen with the office, although I do agree that we should put it on Savvy Citizen and make sure that everybody knows about it.
The
I do not
website,
think the borough office should be closed. That borough office should be available to the people to come down here to conduct their business.
Our
I don't
office is
see-
closed for first aid courses at times. It's closed for meetings, for insurance meetings and pension meetings, and
I don't
having
see
the borough
a need.
office closed for one day for a huge event of that magnitude.
It was half a day and a whole second day, so it was a day and a half total that it was closed. And then the citizen came down Monday, and they had to come back a third time because the person wasn't here that they wanted to speak to. So I don't think that that is a good look for the office to be closed when the people come here to conduct business and have to make repeated trips.
I don't have anything, Mr. Mayor.
one thing I know, I got a couple of calls from people that have swimming pools, apparently I haven't gotten it, had a chance to read the whole thing, but in the newsletter, it says if you need to empty your pool, do it in your yard or use it to water your plants. And I had several people say, well, if I do that, The chlorine's gonna kill my grass and it's gonna kill my flowers. You know, don't be telling people to water their yards with chlorinated water. I don't know whether it'll kill them or not. Unfortunately, I don't have a pool.
I empty my hot tub into the yard, and it doesn't kill the grass, and that's chlorinated water.
Oh,
I think if you, I
Are you
think
sure
if,
it's chlorine? It's not the, what do you call it?
I use pool chlorine in mine,
Okay.
so, but still, I mean, it.
They just
it
called
shouldn't-
and asked, and I
Yeah.
said, I'll find out for you.
Yeah, I think if you let it sit for 3 days before you empty it, I think most of the chlorine just burns off.
Now, your suggestion, I think, was put it in we can put it down in the septic system if they have a pump, and they can pump it into our sewer system.
The best place
Correct.
for full discharge of any sort is in the sanitary sewer collection system, because pumping it into the storm sewer eventually
Oh,
ends up
absolutely.
into pumping it down the road does not help. It eventually ends up in a creek.
And eventually ends up in the Susquehanna River, yeah.
The local impact is greater for those type of chemicals. And that article has been in the newsletter more than once, so.
Does that hurt the bugs in the wastewater treatment plant?
By the time it gets there.
Chlorine
That's
is
enough.
still,
Yeah.
okay, that's fine. We'll get back to them. Thank you. I'll hit it here, EMS and fire along with mayor. Maybe in the future you can put those two together since I'm the liaison.
Yeah, that's fine.
I want to thank everybody. I guess I'll apologize on behalf of anybody else that you guys weren't notified of the dedication over at Shrewsbury Fire Company. Our new chase truck was put into service. Andy and I were both there. I spoke as mayor and Andy spoke as president of council. You probably should have all been included in that. And I will apologize, it came through Andrew, and I got it, and I guess I should have made sure it was forwarded to you guys.
It didn't come through me, it went to you directly.
Yeah, it went to us directly.
You were on it.
I think we.
Yeah, manager.
I'll apologize, because I should have said, I usually I
We
do,
both should
usually
have
I
made
do
sure
forward those, yeah.
that went out to everybody, so I apologize. It was a great event. Kristen Phillips Hill was there, Kate Klunk was there, a lot of other people that were on the actual EMS committee that made sure this happened after 3.5 years of a lot of hours, hard work, discussion. So this is going to be such a great benefit to all of our municipalities. It's all going to be paid for by the municipalities that use it, depending on how many calls, Rose goes out on. That's what we agreed, and I think that's fair. If we do 17% of the calls, we pay for 17% of the budget. And whatever Shrewsbury Township, the Doris Railroad, they pay their fair share, and that's the way it should be. Everybody working together for the betterment of all the communities. So,
Not to pick on anybody, but Cadorus and Railroad haven't decided yet to pay their percent participation. So right now, the chase truck is like 94.5% funded.
yeah, Railroad just doesn't really have
Right,
money.
I know.
We kind of cut them a break with police. Also, I think they only pay by the hour. Is that right? They pay by the hour because, they've got what, 100 people?
Cadorus should pay.
And Cadorus, yeah, they should. So it was wonderful. It was a long time coming, and I hope none of you have to enjoy the the fruits of our labor on that.
I have a question on that. Before you just mentioned that it's gonna be stationed in Shrewsbury. Is it
Correct.
stationed there now?
Correct, yes it is.
Okay, so was there a delay in getting it there? Because as of, I think, late last week, it was still here in New Freedom.
Unless
Well,
it's,
I mean,
unless
they
have
might
call
cycle
here.
it around, you know, but it's
Okay.
home
Maybe it's
base,
just-
it's
all right,
going to
maybe
be
it's just a coincidence then.
Shrewsbury.
Okay.
Yeah, now they may have had to come over here to restock, because they don't restock over in Shrewsbury because they don't have EMS. So any restocking or anything they have to do with the vehicle and.
It is a Rose asset that is stationed out
Yeah,
of Shrewsbury.
it is Rose EMS. That's, there was one other thing. That's about it.
Thanks, Kim. Erica, Southern Regional.
Okay, all the carnivals are done, that went well. National Night Out was a success. Weather cut it short a little bit. Officer Dylan Waugh did a fantastic job. He's already leaning into next year and getting that planned out. It's been pretty quiet. Somebody rented a box truck and went behind the miles in Shrewsbury, dumped a huge amount of tires. They were eventually apprehended in Stewartstown, and they were stealing some metal carts from the Dollar General there. So that was a good catch there. Put out a bid for the police car, the old silver car that unmarked that Chief had, over 173,000 miles. The bid did come in at $1,000. It was rejected, so that'll be going back out. We took a vote to change financial advisors to Engelbert from PMRS. That will take effect at the beginning of the year. Everybody was in favor of it, and all the officers were in favor, and there were like 3 retirees. There was only 1 opposed, and they couldn't get a hold of 1 other. But overwhelming majority thinks it's a positive move. We did make a motion. Diane, who has been at the window there at the department for many years, she's going to be phasing back, and we made a motion to have Kim, who's been part-time, move up to the full-time position starting in September. So Diane will be mentoring Kim through the end of the year, and that is the report.
Did we hear anything back about the problem that Gail had with where the savings were coming from on the pension money? That was a caveat on the vote. Okay.
Excuse me. Erica? Yeah. Did you get the update on Officer Saylor's daughter?
I believe she's moved to a rehab facility and is continuing improvement.
Okay, engineering report for warehouse. Anyone have any questions?
Still working on the solar farm? Nothing, they haven't communicated anything in any way, shape, or form? Okay.
That's funny, because I was like gangbusters, and then all of a sudden just like stopped.
I was just inquiring because I had read an article that several solar farms are having trouble connecting to the grid. Essentially, the grid doesn't have the capacity to take that electricity. But I'm not saying that that's what's going on there. That's just something else I read. I was just curious if they had communicated anything.
No. Radio silent.
Almost makes a year. It almost makes a year.
Yeah. Any questions on Arrow?
Just a comment, do we know when Arrow's gonna finish their design upgrades to well 1? Because if you look, they've been doing that, they've been working at it probably for a while. I'm just curious when they're gonna finish that, get the DEP and get something done with it.
They're still waiting for.
I'm sorry, Donnie?
They're still waiting for electrical stuff to come back.
Electricals?
Yeah, from the electricians.
Electrical, they're waiting for electrical to come back? Donnie said?
Okay, all right, that was last month, all right, we'll see what happens next month.
Okay. Any questions on the water report?
Wastewater, a full load bank test was run on the generator which supplies power to the plant in case of utility power loss. How did that go?
It passed.
No issues?
The main gate that was repaired because of a delivery truck, was that reimbursed to the borough?
I think it's just.
Subdivision and land development? Any questions on the permit report? Was Phil here just to see if we approved?
His plan
Code
should,
enforcement.
should be, yeah, his plan should be in front of council in September.
Code enforcement should be in front of that.
No, you're right. I got it backwards. Code enforcement?
Principal uses from our 2nd Street, final notice, after property inspections. We talked about going out, looking out back, where's the pipe or release?
That's correct.
What happened?
We took a look at the situation and then generated the follow-up letter.
Nothing yet? Did they have 30 or how many days?
That one was an additional, I think that was an additional 30 days. They're all kind of running together.
Once I get out of there, by the 20th, which is tomorrow,
Yes,
is the
yeah.
compliance date.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so I mean, if things are still connected like they were in the past, if the called vehicle is still there, then we'll file just like we have on 4 times on the one above.
Have they been instructed to remove that principal use?
That's correct.
We hear anything back on the exterior structure deterioration on Early?
Other than we have not received the second round of letters that went out to a different address, they have not been returned. So we're hoping that the certified mail still doesn't come back and is being delivered, and then that's sufficient notice.
Received.
Yeah, when we did post the property, but we wanted to make sure that we obtained full delivery of notice via mail and property posting, so there could be no question.
Any other questions on code enforcement?
One, if I'm allowed to ask it, Griffin, is there anything that we are planning on doing now with Griffin, with that condemned property? What can we do? Can we consider it blighted? Get York County involved?
That's already in process.
Since when?
Since we received notification.
Okay.
Couldn't we get updates like that, unless he asked, I would have no idea. How do we keep council informed of things like that?
Well, I sent you an email on the fact that the case was,
That case was closed.
Case was
and
closed.
Lost and everything, fine.
yeah, that's, the next step is to schedule a meeting, and Andrew is scheduling a meeting with Borough County Light Property. But we don't know anything,
Because
we don't know anything.
I guess I don't understand. My job is to facilitate those things to move forward. Part of my job. That's what I'm doing.
And it's also to report to council, as a council member, how do I know that these things are happening, just, you know.
Where
like
does
the
it
things
stop?
Well, I'm here to conduct business of the borough, and if we just ended a lawsuit and you're gonna move forward with blighting the property, I mean, shouldn't I be aware that we're moving forward to blight the property?
It's just,
I don't think that's.
it's just an informational meeting to see what's available, and then he's gonna come back and report on our options.
I'm saying that information of business within the borough that's being conducted like this should come filtered down to council to, you know, should have put it maybe in his manager's report, you know, this is closed out, I'm moving forward
It
with
just
this.
happened.
You know,
It just, this is the report for, it just happened.
well, I know, we got the email a couple weeks ago, 2 weeks ago or so, something that could have been mentioned tonight, we'll say.
All I wanted to know was what the next steps are.
That's the next step. Recreation?
We did have a meeting last week, not a whole lot to go over. There, as mentioned earlier, there's a bunch of programs that are already in there. What you said, like 50 of them? That's going to be in the newsletter, something like that?
4 pages.
It's really impressive the amount of work and programs that have already been generated. There have been a couple that didn't have, say, the minimum number, so that then those programs weren't scheduled, so that we wouldn't essentially lose the money of having somebody to come in and facilitate that program. Did mention that pickleball is starting to pick up again. Some facilities in surrounding areas are going to be closing down for some maintenance, so they think the numbers are going to pick up again this winter. Right now, I think the only real agenda item that we have on for the next meeting is going to be a background check policy to ensure that anybody teaching a class or anything like that has the proper background checks for some of these programs that will be dealing with minors, just to make sure that we're covered. So that'll be an item for the next meeting. Other than that, I think that was really it.
Can I add something?
Concert coming up.
Thank you. Yeah.
Can I add something for rec? I had some people a little concerned getting ready, going into the winter. Those garage doors, when they come down, you can see light through them. Is there any way that these can be like tightened up so that the air doesn't come through those doors? And the main front doors, I mean, you can see underneath there,
At the
you know,
community center?
that far.
Are you talking about the community center?
Yeah.
Weather stripping, we can definitely take a look at that.
Yeah, I think it would probably help in the summer with air conditioning and in the winter with heat, you know, so that cold, especially the cold air coming in there is just horrendous. Just wanted to bring it to your attention that you can see through those gaps in the garage doors and under the main doors coming in.
Yeah, we'll weather strip them out, change.
Yeah,
There's
that
some
helped a
there,
lot.
probably just needs to be replaced.
I know we had to do a lot of work on those doors and stuff to get the new locks and everything. I don't know if that had anything to do, or it's always been like that, but that kind of should be looked at.
I didn't hear anything about a purchase of a 20-foot by 8-foot shed. Is that for rec?
No, that's for the building.
I was told it was purchased for rec to put the pickleball nets in.
It was purchased for the building for additional storage.
Who paid for the shed?
The general fund?
But there's gonna be rec stuff stored in the shed?
It's additional storage for the community center, for the activities of the community center, whether that's related to regional recreation, whether that's related to other uses of the facility by other sports organizations that need storage.
So if there's going to be rec items in there, shouldn't Shrewsbury Township pay for a portion of that shed?
How about we just take the pickleball nets out of it, and then it's no point.
I didn't know the pickleball nets were in it, because the pickleball nets are 2 feet longer than that shed.
That's right, and that's why we were working on developing a way to put a wheel at the center of the net so they could be broken in half and stored in that building.
Well, they already break down into a simple
do.
bag this big.
They do break down, yeah.
That's why that's why we got rid of the old pickleball nets and got these new ones, because they could break down.
How much was the shed?
I have to look back through and see what the invoice was. I don't have that offhand.
Shouldn't Shrewsbury Township pay for a portion of the shed? They're part of rec, they're supposed to share in all the costs, correct?
Well, and like I said, how about we just take the pickleball nets out? We don't put pickleball nets in there, and then it's storage for the building.
It could be some other rec merchandise in there, it doesn't have to be pickleball nets, you know, it could be anything.
Right,
That has
that
to do
relates
with
to local
rec.
sports organizations renting the building.
I don't think that under the intergovernmental agreement for rec that Shrewsbury Township is going to participate in, like for the instance, updates to the heating system in the community center, which would be a building that they would be using as well. And it's not going to be
I wouldn't
prorated,
think so.
nor are we going to pay for them to upgrade the tennis courts that they're going to put in at Miller Park or volleyball or whatever, or bathrooms for
But
them.
these rec
Those
activities.
are capital facilities.
These rec activities are being advertised between the two municipalities, and rec items will be stored in there.
But I don't think that anyone expects that capital expenditures are going to be prorated between the two municipalities.
I'd like to know how much the shed cost. If you could get that, please. Thank you.
Do we have anything on the rental, housing, and occupancy ordinance?
I know I wanted to get together with Andrew last week and he was out. I do have a couple things I want to run by him that have to do with our current registration of rental properties, the ordinance that we have. And I think we need to stay on top of both that, and we need to stay on top of the Knox boxes that are supposed to be going into apartments that haven't been addressed. If we already have an ordinance that states that property owners have to register their renters and their property as a rental property, I don't want to include that in a new rental ordinance. And I wanted to see what your recommendation was, whether we should combine the two and do away with the old rental ordinance that no one's bothered to do anything with and enforce.
I think we've said numerous times that that would be redone and not included in the new one. But we still don't have a draft ordinance to look at.
So, anyway, so you're gonna talk to Andrew and come up with something maybe for next meeting?
We'll see.
Is there any other public comment?
I have
Go ahead.
one thing.
Sure.
At the end of the last meeting, it would have been helpful to remind, I know it was advertised at the beginning of the year, but to